Hello, friends and companions. Welcome back to another beautiful night of storytelling here in the tavern. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are back again with A Darkness at Sethanon. I actually don't remember. Oh, that's right. We actually cut off in the middle of a chapter last time. And it was a hell of a thing. Frost, hello, welcome in. Milu, hello. Bear, hello. Matty, welcome. Good to see you, welcome in. Erin, hello, hello. Erin's here, yes she is. Welcome, 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 my friends. Everyone settle in. Grab your seats, fill your mugs. Teresa, hello, good to see you. Erin, thank you for 10 months of beautiful commitment to the tavern. Enjoy your meat of the Morning Star there.
It's actually very.
Good morning, Bear. Good to see you. My commissioner can't do my story's art anymore because life, well, these things happen. These things happen, Matty. You just have to roll with the punches. That's what it means to be a creator. Tyson, hello. Guten Abend, mein Freund. Wie geht's? Next, what are we up to? Tyson's asking what we're up to. What are we doing? Making stories? Yeah. The lady's actually in the process of doing something incredibly fascinating. She's working on some character art. Ironically, Matty, the lady's working on some character art right now, and it's coming along very nicely. I'm excited for it myself. I'm going to be writing much tonight. I'm not going to be writing much tonight. My eyes are hurting. You occasionally have to take a little bit of time off. Duncan, hello, brother. How are you doing? How are things out your way? Official Mama, it's been a while. Hello, thank you for the heart, mate. Tips to the tavern keeper always appreciated. Thank you kindly. Welcome in. Yeah. She's very hard on herself because she doesn't do a lot of stuff that has a lot of realism to it, and she doesn't do a lot of sceneries. She's more of a 3D modeler. Like she went for 3D animation and game animation when she studied art. But she's a wonderful illustrator. Almost all of the things, these are things that we bought. Like we didn't make the tavern backgrounds. The lady found them and had them and cleaned them up and whatever. But she doesn't usually do background or architecture stuff. So it's a whole new thing for her to be doing character design the way that she's currently doing it in illustration, and she's doing a wonderful job. She doesn't feel like she's doing a wonderful job, but she is doing a wonderful job. You all know she's brilliant at this point. It's hard for her to be anything but brilliant. As good as I get, understanding the need to rest from writing starts to feel like your eyes are melting. Indeed it can. I said over in the guild that it's a beautiful day here in Melbourne. I lied. It's a glorious day. Not a cloud in the sky, a light breeze, and a civilized 23 degrees. You know what, Bear? I will meet you on that because it is a glorious day here in California as well. There's not a bit of smog in the sky. The sky is filled with clouds, and it is a glorious, I think, 62 degrees Fahrenheit outside. We're our own worst critics. It's true. That's true. I will be honest. One of the things that has stopped us quite often is every time like I make something or the lady makes something, we think that it's not good enough to ask people to watch it or to read it. So we just get into revision hell, or we just don't want to put it out because we don't feel like it's worth all of your time to watch it or read it or support it, and so we a lot of times we get caught up. I've had to put that aside. For any of you who watch the story times, the short story times that we put out, we've done, I think, close to 40 of them in the last 40 days.
It's not going to be
Official Mama says Texas is beautiful but muggy. Texas is having much better weather right now than it usually does. It's so humid in Texas. I love Texas quite a bit, but it's so muggy. New Hobbit name, but it's Uncle Kaiju. I'm saying, Kaiju! Hello! Tobin Greenwillow. I love it. I love it. Well, should I call you Kaiju or should I call you Tobin? What would you prefer, brother? I'm glad you're alive. How are you feeling? If I remember correctly, you're having a medical sort of crisis last time that we saw you. No smog in LA. Wow. Yeah, every time after it rains, we have a very brief segment where we don't have any smog, and it's absolutely lovely. Do you have alpha readers? I do not. I do on occasion let some folk over in the guild read what we're writing, but I don't have specific designated alpha readers. Smokey, hello! But Kaiju, I'm glad to see you, my friend. I'm glad you dropped back in. Again, would you prefer I call you Tobin, or would you prefer I call you Kaiju? Which one is your preference? I'm glad you're all right. I'm glad you're alive. It is wonderful to see you. But how are you feeling? How are you feeling? I feel that one. It's really nice here for now. Still getting hot midday. Yeah, I actually was able to go outside and walk and not be sweaty. But when I went from outside to inside, I got sweaty because it's a little bit warmer inside than it is outside, and I sweat so easily with temperature change. It's ridiculous. Whichever comes fall time, I get into it. I think we all get into a Tolkien. If you are bookish at all, you get a little Tolkien-y when the time comes. All the alpha readers I've run wanted pay. Yeah, which is why we don't have any excess capital to pay people. So I let anybody who wants to read and give an opinion in the guild read whatever we have, but I don't insist upon it, and I don't have any sort of designation for it. Bear says he's sitting out under my back veranda gazing at my swimming pool. Beautiful thing. No, sadly we've had quite a few setbacks getting out of the state. Luckily, or I should say happily, with the amount of growth the tavern is experiencing, which is a blessing of all of you fine regulars and folks who come in and support all of the things we do. We're looking at that timeline being very, very moved up, hopefully. I mean, I share most of mine publicly, I guess. I don't, because most of what we're writing, are a part of projects in the tavern. Matthew praise Bombadil. Yes, indeed. Is that Matthew Mateus, or is that Matthew a different Matthew? Also, your name is completely back. I can't even see it. Thomas, hello! I'm glad you were able to drop in. Stay bloodthirsty to you as well. I'm glad you were able to drop in and see us for a bit. I'm watching Bob's Burgers as always. Is there a new episode, Aaron? I didn't see one. James, thank you kindly for the lightning bolts. No, you're all right. Don't apologize. You can't apologize for being a Matthew. Hello, I cannot see your name. The person who just said hi, sir. I can't see your name. James, thank you for the lightning bolt. Tips to the tavern keeper always appreciated. Brookie, hello, welcome in. Grab a seat. No, I'm watching the Kids Rob the Train episode. Oh, I see. That is a good episode. The chocolate robbery episode. I have a question if you don't mind answering. I have no qualms answering a question. Fire away. If it's a silly question, I'll give you a silly answer. If it's a serious question, what period was King Arthur's reign? It's a great question. Let me see. I'm terrible with dates, so you're gonna have to bear with me for a second. Esther, hello, welcome in. Johnny's at the doctor this morning. I had forgotten you were all. It's quite all right. Do what you need to do. We'll be on for a bit. It's past my bedtime. After all, 3:30 rolls around real quick, but it's been a while, and I missed a camaraderie. Well, you make sure you get your sleep. That's very important. Head off to bed, Thomas. I'm glad you dropped in, my friend. Thank you kindly for being here. It's always wonderful to see you. I've seen you in some of the story comments, and I appreciate that. So yeah, the King of Camelot, obviously. Now I'm terrible with dates, but he was king in the area of Trig, and I want to say it was in the 4th or 5th century. I don't remember right off the top of my head, but I believe he was believed to have reigned in the 4th or 5th century. Whenever Gerald of Wales was taking records, because the primary record we have for the evidence that Arthur was real comes from Gerald of Wales. So Maddie says King Arthur was alive in the 500s according to what I've read. Yeah, that's entirely possible. But yeah, he was either from Wales or Cornwall. A lot of people believe Cornwall. Some people believe Scotland. Some people believe Britain. There's no real consensus on that. But it was believed that his kingdom existed in the area of Trig. And yeah, I think 4th or 5th century, maybe 6th century was when he was alive. Again, it's whenever Gerald of Wales was taking records. I'm terrible with dates. Off the top of my, I have a whole journal and document set just to remember dates because I'm terrible with them. In other good and happy news, I have had 2 consecutive days of tidying up my overgrown backyard with minimal negative consequences, so I'm pleased about that. That is good news, Bear. That is very good news. I'm glad you're taking care of yourself and not overdoing it again. Make sure you mind yourself. Johnny is terribly unwell. We'll be back and forth. That's quite all right, is to make sure that Johnny is taken care of and give him our best wishes. That is all I request. Welsh around the early 300s, right? So there's a lot of debate among scholars exactly where he came from, but there are a lot of Welsh stories, there are a lot of Cornish stories, there are a few stories of the Britons. But yeah, he lived in what we know for sure is that his kingdom was in the kingdom of Trig. We don't know exactly who he was or where he was from. But yeah, it was somewhere between the 3rd and 6th century, no, 4th and 6th century was when he existed. We don't know 100% for sure, as the records are sparse, but that's about, I hope that answers your question. Off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you specifically. If things keep going as they are, my second book will be done in a month or 2. That's good news, Matty. Very good news. I mean, King Arthur is a fascinating subject. I did a whole series of videos on King Arthur. There's a wonderful amount of stories on Arthur. And he's sort of this fascinating figure because he is so cross-cultural when it comes to Western and Northern Europe. Right, like there are a bunch of groups that claim him. There are a bunch of groups that claim he died or was buried in their area. Like the Cornish claim that he was buried in Cornwall. The Irish claim that he was buried in Ireland. The Scots claim he was buried in Scotland. There are all of these different claims, some with more substantial proof than others. But he is such an inspirational and broadly known and claimed figure. Merlin Ambrosius. That I won't be able to tell you right off the top of my head, friend. Black Knight, good evening. So very glad that you could join us. I'm wonderful. It's nice. It's finally starting to cool off out here. Is Ambrosius? Is that the rest of Merlin's name? I can't remember it off the top of my head. Again, cannot remember right off the top of my head. Okay. Then. Maybe? I don't actually... That's a good question. I think that... What is the earliest mention we have of Merlin? Isn't the first mention we have of Merlin like in the 9th century? Val, hello, welcome in. I think the first mentions of Merlin we have are in the 7th or 8th century. I don't know for sure. That's true. Excalibur is a spectacular film. Percival was always my favorite knight. Agreed. Dave, hello, welcome in. Good to see you. Welcome, welcome. Grab your seat. Was Merlin an actual wizard, or is that just a telltale? Again, who's to say? In some versions of the story, he was a druid. In some versions of the story, he was a storykeeper. In some versions of the story, he's a wizard. So it's entirely possible that he had some sort of supernatural ability. I've even seen some Christian and Middle Eastern interpretations that say that he was like possessed or something. Which there's no real substantiation for that. But there was it Merlin and Incubus? That's the that's the interpretation that claims that Merlin was a demon. I've seen that interpretation. There's not a lot of substantiation for that, but it's because of Merlin's involvement in Uther's, like the seduction of Uther and his wife and all of that, and the father of Arthur. So, or the mother of Arthur. So it's there is stories about that, but no, there's no historical substantiation to claim that Merlin was an incubus. Tobin, Uncle Kaiju says Merlin was just Rasputin. He was beyond his time. It would be very funny if Merlin was Rasputin and he made it all the way up to the Romanovs before they finally got rid of him. That would be very funny. Rockhound, hello, good to see you. Life does find me well. It's finally cooling off where the lady and I are, and we're having a wonderful discussion about King Arthur. I need to get reading, but I can't see who the individual is, but it looks like XBAK, and their name is all blacked out, is the one who's asking the questions about Merlin, and it's a wonderful discussion. What was so good about Excalibur? This is a fascinating line of questions. Yeah, we did I have a bunch of videos about King Arthur and all of that. Excalibur, the original Excalibur, was a sort of lineage. I sadly got to go. I'll come back later if I'm not asleep. All right, Black Knight, I appreciate you dropping in anyways to say hello. It's wonderful to see you. And if you make it back in before story time's over, it'll be a privilege to have you come back, my friend. Be safe with whatever you've got going on, all right? He was a wizard in Sword in the Stone by Disney. That's true. Yes, he was. Also, remember, all druids were before their time. That's true. Now you got Matty over here singing Rasputin in the chat. Ra-ra, Rasputin, lover of the Russian queen. Yeah. So there are actually three swords in the Arthurian myth. I can't remember all three names again off the top of my head. But there was Excalibur, there was, I think, Kaladin, and another one. One was King Arthur's father's sword, and the reason why that sword was important was... No, we're not having a lyric off. I'll lose. I'm not rap friendly at the moment. Huh? At the moment. I don't have a whole lot of rhythm. Good song though, says Val. The Arthur's first sword. So there are three swords in the Arthurian myth. The first one is important because it is Arthur's father's sword, and it is what gave him right to inherit his father's kingdom. The second sword, which is technically the first sword, like reforged, sort of like what happened with Anduril in Lord of the Rings. In the version that I prefer of King Arthur, he gives the sword to the Lady of the Lake and she brings it back as a magical sword. And that magical sword is the one that gives him rule over the Britons. But there are so many different versions of the King Arthur tale. You really have to look at which ones have the most sort of repeat and substantiation to them and decide for yourself. It's one of those things where there's really not enough information for anybody to say anything decisively, and it's a story that's been retold and retold and retold. It's kind of like Robin Hood, right? Like there's no definite. Robin Hood is even more vague. But there's no like definite article about who Robin Hood was, or where he was from, or what the actual story of Robin Hood is, because there are so many versions of it told over such a long period of time that Robin Hood just sort of became a legend. And there are a lot of things that are attributed to the mythical version of King Arthur that aren't necessarily historically veracious. Like there's not a lot of historicity to them. But they are folktales, and they were told as folktales for a very long time. So you have to sort of work really hard to differentiate the history from the folktale. And that's not to diminish the folktales, because the folktales are very important, and the folktales are usually about something that did happen. But the attribution of them to King Arthur is the part that is insubstantial. So it's not to say that the folktale's not true, or that the folktale didn't have any substance to it. It's that it's not necessarily King Arthur, the King Arthur of history, that did the things that we're seeing in these folktales. That's the important aspect to remember. All right, I think that I've waffled enough on King Arthur, and I think we can start our story here. All right. Yeah, waffles. All the waffles. Yeah. I do, like, you guys have to understand that if you ask me a question, I'm going to do my best to answer it as completely as possible. Lyoko! Hello, hello! Thank you for the what's up, the lightning bolts, and Val, thank you for the roses. Tips to the tavern keeper, always appreciated. We served 327 people at work today. I am so tired. That is a hell of a day, Kayla. You survived, though. Good work. Settle in, fill your mug. Relax with some story time. Alright, so for anyone who does not remember, manic laughter. When we last left off, we were in a bit of a situation when we last left off here in the darkness at Sethanon. Correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't just a few years ago, historians and archaeologists discover a burial mound in Ireland that could have possibly been the final resting place of King Arthur? So yes, they did find one that they believe could have been, Thomas. And this is why I say Arthur's story is so fascinating, because like there's not a single major country in Western Europe that doesn't make some sort of claim to Arthur and his legacy, which is why it's such a fascinating story. And there are a lot of people, myself included, who believe in the stories of Arthur, that when they talk about the land of heaven and the place where Arthur sailed off to go after he was injured in his final battle, sailing off to Avalon. A lot of people believe that Ireland was Avalon, as it was the land of the Tuatha Danann and the Firbolg, the gods of that era, the sort of pagan gods of that time, and a place that was widely believed by a lot of Western and Northern Europe to be sort of this divine island for a very long time, which is why we're all so self-important, we Irish folk. A lot of people believe that Avalon in that representation was Ireland, and there are other arguments about it being other places too. That's not the only point of discussion. Some people believe that it was Scotland, and some people believe that it was Wales, and some people believe that it was County Glass, and all of these other things. So there's a lot of differentiation around it, and the idea is like there's no real consensus on the Arthur myth. As much as a lot of scholars would like to say that there is, there's not really. The evidence doesn't say that there's much substantial consensus around it. But you are right that I think it was in 20. I might be wrong. Again, I'm terrible with dates. I think it was in 2019, or it might have been a little bit earlier than that, when they found a burial mound that they did believe to be King Arthur's, because they didn't know whose it would be. Well, it also feeds into the myth that Merlin was actually a druid. Right, because the druids were primarily in the areas of Ireland, Scotland, and the Cornwall, and like where the Britons were. So, it's very interesting. There's no one who can really say for sure. Even my family, who's kept stories for hundreds and hundreds of years, like we personally keep story records and had storytellers who would go and verify events. Even with our stories, we don't really know all there is to know about Arthur. And again, that would still just be our family's perspective. There's not historicity behind that necessarily. Alright, so when we last left off in the story, Pug and Tomas had just summoned a dragon. And the reason why they summoned a dragon is because they're going to DeLorean themselves between realms. Because apparently, in the world of Kelawon and of Midkemia, you have to ride a dragon to be able to pass between realms, which is just a fascinating bit of storytelling. That the dragons are sort of like these planeswalking creatures. It's a wonderful little bit of story. And it also explains why the Dragon Lords were so feared, the Valheru, which is what Tomas gained the power of a Valheru, a Dragon Lord. And that's why they were so feared, was because they could literally just skate between realms on the backs of dragons. Why wouldn't they be terrified? Dragons are buses for the other planes. Yeah, apparently in Feist's stories, yes, indeed. Yes, Dragon Riders of Pern, I believe, does have a similar thing. Lovey, you've read more of Anne McCaffrey's books than I have.
Yeah.
Can dragons go through wormholes in Dragon Riders of Pern?
I don't recall.
Well, Quirt, I trust your memory, so we'll say for now, tentatively, yes, that's probably right. I suppose I could look it up. I do have the magic of the internet here in front of me, but it's a lot of work. All right, we'll check real quick and then we'll start. But that's where we are in Darkness at Sethanon. They just got the dragon who came to them was a giant elder dragon, and just so happens to be the granddaughter of the dragon that gave Tomas the armor that gave him his power, which is such a cool connection. Obviously, the writer gets to decide whether those things are true or not, but still such a neat connection in the story. I like it a lot. Okay, so in Ed McCaffrey's Dragon Riders of Pern series, the dragons do not travel through portals or wormholes, but by a form of instantaneous teleportation known as going between. The term is used because the dragons physically enter a cold, dark, non-dimensional place in order to emerge at their destination. Interesting. Very interesting. That's an excellent memory quote. I have a lot of lore on dragons in my story right now. My story's version of Dragonstone. I love me some dragons. I do. Of course, it's sweet. I haven't read those since I was like. That's an excellent memory for not having read them since you were 7. That's probably about when the lady last read them too. Was probably, I'm not going to say how many years ago, but probably same age. They use instant transmission like Goku. Similar. So they create wormholes to travel, says Kayla. Worm spelled W-Y-R-M. Yes, I'm now going with Kayla's headcanon that they are wormholes. I don't know if the rest of you guys love these discussions, but I do. There's so much fun for me. Alright, let's get to reading, friends. So we are with Tomas, Pug, and the new dragon's name is Reath. These discussions are my favorite part of this. I love these quotes. I love them. Alright. Tomas mentally directed Reath's cause. As need came, he discovered abilities not used in this life. Again, he felt the persona of Ashen Shagor within. But it was nothing like the all-consuming madness he had endured before he finally overcame the heritage of the Valheru to regain his humanity. Tomas maintained an illusion of space about himself, Pug, and the dragon. Again, almost instinctively. All about them, the glory of 1,000 million stars illuminated the darkness. Both men knew they were not in what Pug had come to call true space, but were rather in that grey nothingness he had experienced when he and Makros had closed the rift between Kalawan and Midkemia. But that greyness had no substance, existing as it did between the very strands of fabric of space and time. They could age here while appearing back at the point of departure an instant after having left. Time did not exist in this non-space. But the human mind, no matter how gifted, had limits, and Tomas knew Pug was human, regardless of his powers, and that now was not the time to test his limits. Reath appeared indifferent to the illusion of true space about her. Tomas and Pug sensed the dragon change directions. The dragon's ability to navigate in this nothingness was a source of interest to Pug. He suspected Macross might have gained some insight into how to move between worlds at will from his time of study with Ra years ago. Pug made a mental note to search through Macross's works back at Stardock for that information. They emerged in normal space, thundering into existence with a loud report. Wraith beat her wings strongly, flying through the angry skies, dark with rain clouds above a rugged landscape of ancient mountains. The air held a bitter metallic tang, a hint of something foul blown along by a stinging frigid wind. Wraith said a thought to Tomas. "This place is of an alien nature. I like it not." Aloud, so that Pug might hear, Tomas answered. "We shall try not to tarry here, Wraith. And here we need fear nothing." "I have nothing to fear. I have nothing to do with fear, Valheru. I simply care not for such odd places." How haughty. Pug pointed. That's how the lady is when I take her somewhere she doesn't want to go. She's like, "I care not for such strange places." And she looks down her nose too when she does it. I love her for how haughty she is, so I don't say this is a crossword. Wouldn't it be a wonderful thing to do this in person? Bear, look, I don't want to hype anybody up because I don't like making promises or noting things that might not come true. But with how we are growing currently, especially on Facebook, there's a very real chance that, like, if the acceleration keeps going on Facebook, and I'm only saying this here, I'm not going to put this in text anywhere because I don't want it to come back and bite me. But with all of the sharing and liking and interaction we've been getting on Facebook, there's a very real chance that next year we might be able to start that project if it continues growing as it is. It's not enough now, but the trajectory that it is on is very promising for the tavern. Bethany just got home. Wonderful. Settle in, fill your mug, and get ready to join us. Thomas, thank you for the stars, my friend. Tips to the tavern keeper always appreciated. Shooting over the tavern. Astrological events. But I would love to do this in person. Yeah, don't put the Mars on it. I am most excited. Tomas, enjoy your breed's blessing there. I'm just gonna keep working. I'm gonna put my head down. I'm gonna keep working, making more and more stories, getting books done. And if what the people decide is that the tavern should prosper, then that's what will happen. As of right now, it's out of our hands. All we can do is make better and better stories and make more and more of them. And it'll be up to all of you to decide what that ends up being worth. I forgot how expensive CDs are. I spent $7 and some change on 3 CDs. Wow, that is crazy. I don't think I've bought physical music in ages. I should, because we rely way too much on the digital transfer of things, and that's not in the buenos, as it were. Pug pointed past Tomas, who turned to follow the magician's gesture. With mental commands, Tomas directed the dragon to follow Pug's instructions. They sped between jagged peaks, a nightmare landscape of twisted rock. In the distance, mighty volcanoes spewed towers of black smoke. They fanned upward, their undersides glowing orange from reflected light. The mountain slopes were aglow with the flowing superheated rock. Then they came upon the city. Once heroic walls lay rent, the gaps framed by shattered masonry. Proud towers occasionally still rose above the destruction. But mostly there was ruination. No signs of life could be seen. Over what had been a plaza of they bent, circling the heart of the city, where throngs once gathered. Now only the sound of Rayat's, or is it? I'll say Riyadh's wings could be heard over the icy wind. That is. Bear has a question for you, Levy. He says, I just had an odd thought. When you guys shift to Montana, will that make you Una's moving castle? And Court says it will now. But I guess anywhere she has me go, that I'm her moving castle. That's very funny, man. Oh, I got a chuckle out of that. What is this place? Asked Tomas. I do not know. I know that this world is of the Isle, or once was in the past. It is ancient. See the sun? Tomas observed an angry white spot behind the blowing clouds. It is strange. It's old. Once it shone like ours, brilliant and warm. Now it fades. But Herod lore, long dormant, returned to Tomas. It's near the end of its cycle. I have knowledge of these. Sometimes they simply dwindle to nothing. Other times they explode in titanic fury. I wonder which this will be. I don't know. Perhaps the Oracle knows. Bug directed Tomas towards the distant range of mountains. Toward the mountains they sped. Riyadh's powerful wings carried them swiftly. The city had stood on the edge of a tableland, once cultivated, they suspected. But nothing hinting of farms remained, save a single stretch of what seemed to be an aqueduct, standing isolated in the center of a broad plain, a silent monument to a long-dead people. Then Riyadh began to climb as they approached the mountains. Once again they flew between mountain peaks, these old and worn by the wind and rain. There, said Pog. We've arrived. Following Tomas's mental instructions, Riyadh circled above the peak. Upon the south-facing rocks, a clear, flat place was revealed. Before a large cave. There was no room for the giant dragon to land. So, Tomas used his powers to levitate himself and Pug from her back. Riyadh sent a message that she would fly to hunt, returning at Tomas's call. Tomas wished her success, but expected the dragon would return hungry. They floated through a damp, wind-blown sky, so darkened by the storm, there was a little difference between day and night. They alighted upon the ledge before the cliff. They watched Riyadh speed away, Pug said. There's no danger here, but we may yet travel to places of great peril. Do you think Riyadh truly without fear? Tomas turned to Pug with a smile. I think it's so. In my dreams of ancient days, I touched the minds of her ancestors, and this dragon is to them as they were to your Fantas. Then it's good she joins us willingly. It would have been difficult to persuade her otherwise. Tomas agreed. I could have destroyed her, without a doubt. But, bent her to my will, I think not. The days of the Valheru ruling without question have long since vanished. Pug studied the alien landscape below the ledge. This is a sad, hollow place. And the tomes harboured in Elvardine. This world is described. It was once adorned with vast cities, homes to nations. Now nothing is left. Tomas asked quietly. What became of those people? The sun waned, weather changed. Earthquakes, famine, war, whatever it was, it brought utter destruction. They turned to face the cave as a figure appeared in the entrance, shrouded from head to foot in an all-concealing robe. Only one thin arm appeared from a sleeve. That arm ended in a gnarled old hand holding a staff. Slowly the man, or so he appeared to be, approached, and when he stood before them, a voice as thin as an ancient wind issued from within the dark hood. Who seeks the oracle of all? Pug spoke. I, Pug, called Malamba, magician of two worlds. And I, Tomas, called Ashen Shagor, who has lived twice. Val, thank you for the roses, love, I appreciate you. Yeah, okay, I'm a weirdo with a strange mind, but I'm okay with that. This is the place for misfits, such as, Bear. I bought 2 Iron X's CDs, and I didn't have yet an Linkin Park CD because I wanted to. Well, why wouldn't you? Molly Sue, hello, sorry I'm late. No, sorry, we literally just started. I was waffling for a good deal of time, so you're okay. Can I chuck my phone into Lake Michigan? Probably not. I would say that you don't want to litter, but you can definitely smash it and then throw it away responsibly. Although I understand the urge. I respect and understand the urge, Molly Sue. But you don't want to punish fish because your phone is dumb. I don't actually even know if there are any fish in Lake Michigan. I assume that there are. Val, thank you for the roses. I appreciate you. I'm just saying, my knowledge of Lake Michigan is limited. Yeah, there are still. Okay, there you go. That sounds pleasant too. Well, and I'm sorry that you're having issues with your phone. It's never fun when such an integral part of our daily life, which sadly our phones are such an important part of our lives nowadays, when they don't work properly. It is so frustrating. You've been working hard, lovey. The figure motioned for them to enter the cave. Tomas and Pug passed into a low, unlit tunnel. With a wave of his hand, Pug caused a light to appear above them. The tunnel opened into a monstrous cave. Tomas halted. We are but scant yards below the peak. This cavern cannot be contained within. Pug placed his hand upon Tomas's arms. We are somewhere else. The cavern was lit by faint light issuing from the walls and ceiling, so Pug ended his own spell. Several more figures in robes could be seen at distant corners of the cavern, but none approached. The man who had greeted them upon the ledge walked past them, and they followed. Pug said, "What shall we call you?" The man said, "Whatever pleases you. Here we have not names, no past, no future. We are simply those who serve the oracle." He led them to a large outcropping of rock, upon which rested a strange figure. It was a young woman, or more appropriately, a girl, perhaps no more than 13 or 14, perhaps a few years older. It was difficult to judge. She was scant and covered in dirt, scratches, and her own excrement. Interesting. Her long brown hair was matted with filth. Her eyes widened as they approached, and she scampered backwards across the rocks, shrieking in terror. It was obvious to both men that she was entirely mad. She shrieked. The shrieking continued while she hugged herself, and then it descended the scale, changing into a mad laugh. Suddenly the girl gave the men an appraising look and began to pull at her hair, in a pitiful imitation of combing, as if she was suddenly concerned about her appearance. Without words, the man with the staff indicated the girl. Tomas said, "This, then, is the oracle." The hooded figure nodded. This is the present oracle. She will serve until her death. Then another will come, as she came, when she who was the oracle before died. So it has always been, and so it will ever be. How do you survive on this dead world? We trade. Our race has perished. Others, such as yourselves, seek us out. We abide. He pointed to the cowering girl. She is our wealth. Ask what you will. Mark Evans, hello, hello. Yes, this is Storytime. At present, we are reading A Darkness at Sethanon. We do, on occasion, during Storytimes, discuss real-world lore, but Tuesdays and Thursdays I read, and then we discuss what is going on in the story. But whenever I'm asked a question, I will generally engage with whatever the question is. Anyway, I'm very glad that you dropped in for a little bit. I appreciate the compliment. And we'll hope to see you back. Also, Beauty and Blasphemy, hello. Good to see you. I'm sure you've been in for a while, but I'm glad that you're here. Right, where was I? And the price? Inquired Pug. The hooded man repeated himself. Ask what you will. The oracle answers if she chooses. When she chooses, she will name a price. She may ask for a sweet, a fruit, or a still beating heart to eat. She may ask for a bubble with which to play. He indicated the pile of odd devices cast off from the corner. She may ask for 100 sheep, or 100 weight of grain or gold. You must decide if the knowledge you seek is worth the price asked. She sometimes answers without a price, and oft times she will not answer, no matter what is offered. Her nature is capricious. Pug stepped up to the cowering girl. She stared at him for a long moment, then smiled, absently playing with her stringy hair. Pug said, "We seek to learn of the future." The girl's eyes narrowed, and suddenly there was no hint of madness within. It was as if another person instantly inhabited her. In a calm voice, she answered,
To learn this, then, will you give me my price?
"Name your price."
Save me.
Tomas looked at the guide. From deep within the hood, the dry voice said, "We do not truly understand what she means. She is trapped within her own mind. It is that madness which grants her the gift of oracality. Free her from that madness, and she no longer will be the oracle. So she must have another meaning." Pug said, "Save you from what?" The girl laughed. Then the calm voice returned.
If you do not understand, you cannot save me.
"Thank you, I was a little late, but got in just in time for the story. Wonderful. Always wonderful to know." The figure in the robe seemed to shrug. Pug considered, then said, "I think I do understand." He reached out and seized the girl's head between his hands. She stiffened as if about to scream, but Pug sent a comforting mental message. What he was about to attempt was something formerly thought to be solely the province of clerics. But his time with the Eldar at Elfardine had taught him that the only real limits to the magic were those of the practitioner. Pug closed his eyes and entered the madness. Pug stood in a landscape of shifting walls, a maze of maddening colors and shapes. The horizon changed with each step, and perspective was non-existent. He looked down at his hands and watched them suddenly grow larger till they were the size of melons, then just as rapidly shrink until they were smaller than a child's. He looked up and could see the walls of the maze receding and approaching, seemingly at random, while their colors and patterns flashed through a dozen changes. Even the ground below his feet was the red and white of chessboard, one moment and the black and grey lines the next, then large blue and green spots on red. Angry flashing lights sought to blind him. Pug took hold of his own perceptions. He knew he was still within the cavern, and that this illusion was an extension of the girl's need for a physical analog in dealing with of his own need for a physical analog in dealing with a girl's madness. First, he stabilized himself so the strange shifting limbs halted. To act rashly at any point could destroy the girl's brittle mind, and he had no way to judge what that would do to him, given his present contact with her mind. He might somehow be trapped in her madness, an unpleasant prospect. Over the last year, Pug had learned a great deal about controlling his arts, but he had also learned their limits, and he knew what he did carried some risk. Next, he stabilized the immediate area about him, changing the shifting, vibrating walls and dazzling lights, realizing that any direction was as valid as another. He set out walking was also illusory, he knew, but the illusion of movement was required for him to reach the seat of her consciousness. Like any problem, this one required a frame of reference. It would be one the girl would provide. Pug could only react to whatever her demented mind dreamed up for him. Abruptly, he was plunged into darkness, so silent that only death could match its stillness. Then a single odd sound came to him. A moment later, another came, from a different direction. Then a faint pulse in the air. With more rapidity, the darkness was punctuated with movement in the air and odd sounds. At last, the blackness was full of pulsing noises and fetid odors. Strange breezes blew across his face, and odd feathery things brushed against him, moving away too quickly for him to seize. He created light and discovered himself in a large cavern, much like the real one which he and Tomas now stood. Nothing else stirred. Within the illusion, he called out. No answer. The landscape shuddered and shifted, and he stood upon a beautiful greensward, lined by graceful trees too perfect to exist in reality. They formed boundaries that pointed towards a impossibly lovely palace of white marble adorned with gold and turquoise, amber and jade, opal and chalcedony. I don't know if I've ever seen that word before. Lovey, have you ever seen this word? Chalcedony. I've never seen that word before. Well, now I have to look it up. How fascinating. Chalcedony, I'm not even sure if I'm saying it right, is a translucent gemstone and a variety of cryptocrystalline quartz. Known for its waxy or vitreous luster and durability, comes in a wide range of colors, including blue, white, grey, pink, orange, and green, and encompasses many well-known varieties like agate, onyx, carnelian, and jasper. Interesting. And for anybody who is a gem nerd, it is a hardness of 6.5 to 7 on the Mohs scale. How interesting. Valkyrie, hello, hello. Chalcedony. I don't know if it said Chalcedony or Chalcedony. But yes, I'd never seen that word before. But apparently it is a variety of stone. I'd never heard of it before. Valkyrie, hello, love, welcome in. So very glad you could join us. It's a gorgeous stone. I saw some pictures. It's fascinating. I had never seen them before. Well, obviously I'd seen them before. I didn't know that that's what they were called. I have several sitting behind me. I should have guessed that someone in here would be a stone nerd. I didn't know it was you, though, Frost. Now I know I can come to you if I have stone questions. Kristalla, hello, hello! We're doing wonderful, Valkyrie. How are you and that beautiful husband of yours? Alright, where were we? Ugh. A place so startlingly wonderful that Pug could only stand in mute appreciation. The image was emotionally laden with the feeling that this was the most perfect place in the universe, a sanctuary where no trouble intruded, where one could wait out eternity in absolute contentment. Again the landscape shifted, and he stood within the halls of a palace. From a white marble floors flecked with gold to pillars of ebony, it was the most lavish image of wealth he had ever perceived, surpassing even the palace of the warlord of Kenosari. The ceiling was carved quartz, admitting sunlight with a rosy glow, and the walls were bedecked with rich tapestries woven with gold and silver threads. Ebony doors with ivory trim and studdings of precious stone were common to every portal. And wherever Pug looked, he saw gold. In the center of this splendor, a white circle of light illuminated a dais, upon which stood two figures, a woman and a girl. He stepped towards them. Suddenly warriors erupted from the floor like plants, springing from the ground. Each was a powerful creature of terrible aspect. One looked like a boar made human, another like a giant mantis. A third seemed a lion's head upon a man. A fourth wore the face of an elephant. Each was armed and armored in rich metals and jewels, and they bellowed fearsomely. Pug stood quietly. The warriors attacked, and Pug remained motionless. Each time the nightmare creature struck, the weapon passed through Pug, and the creatures vanished. When they were gone, Pug stepped towards the dais upon which the two figures stood. The dais began to move away, as if upon tiny wheels or legs. Picking up speed, Pug walked directly toward it, willing himself to overtake it. Soon the landscape about him was a blur in passing, and he judged the illusion of the palace must be miles in subjective size. Pug knew he could halt the fleeing dais with its two passengers, but to do so might be harmful to the girl. Any overact of violence, even one as minor as commanding the pair of fugitives to halt, could permanently scar her. Now the dais began to careen, banging passage through an obstacle course of rooms, and Pug was forced to dodge and move to avoid objects hurled into his path. He could have also destroyed anything that blocked his way, but the effect would have been as harmful as if he had ordered the pair to halt. No, he thought, when you enter another's reality, you observe her rules. Then the dais halted, and Pug overtook the pair. The woman stood silently studying the approaching magician, while the girl sat at her feet. Unlike her real appearance, here the girl was beautifully clothed in a gown of soft, translucent silk. Her hair was gathered atop her head in a magnificent fashion, held by pins of silver and gold, each bearing a jewel. While it was impossible to judge how the girl looked in truth beneath the dirt, She was a young woman of astonishing beauty. Then the beautiful girl stood and grew, changing before his eyes to a horror of gigantic proportions. Large hairy arms sprouted from her soft shoulders, while her head became that of an enraged eagle. Lightning cascaded from her ruby eyes as claws came crashing down upon Pug. He stood motionless. The claws passed harmlessly through him, for he refused to take part in this reality. Suddenly the monster vanished, and the girl was as he had seen her in the cave, scant, filthy, and mad. Looking at the woman, Pug said, "You are the Oracle."
I am.
She said, regal and proud and alien. While she looked entirely human, Pug guessed that was part of the illusion. She would be something else in truth, or had been when she was alive. Pug now understood. If I free her, what of you?
I must find another to enter, and soon, or I will cease my existence. That is as it has always been, and must be now.
So another must succumb to this.
That is as it always has been.
If I free her, what of her?
She will be as she was when brought here. She is young and will regain her sanity.
Will you resist me?
You know I cannot. You see through the illusions. You know these are only monsters and treasures of the mind. And before you rid her of me, understand something, magician. At the dawn of time, when the multitude of universes were forming, we were born, we of the Owl. When your Valheru companion and his kin raged across the heavens, we were old and wise beyond their understanding. I am the last female of my race, though that is a convenient label, not a description. Those in the cavern are males. We labored to maintain that which is our grandest heritage, the power of the Oracle. For we are the husbanders of truth, the handmaidens of knowledge. It was found in ages past that I could continue to exist within the mind of others, but at the price of their own sanity. It was considered a necessary evil to corrupt a few members of lesser races in exchange for maintaining the power of the All. We would that it were otherwise, but it is not, and I need living minds in which to exist. Take the girl, but know that I will soon have another to reside within. She is nothing, a simple child of unknown parentage. On her homeworld, she would have become, at best, the drudge of some peasant, or at worst, a whore for men's amusement. Within her mind, I've given her riches beyond the dreams of most powerful kings. What will you give her in its place?
Her own fate. But I think another sort of salvation was spoken of. One of you both.
You are perceptive, magician. The star around which the world moves is close to dying. Its erratic cycle is the cause of the planet's ruination. Already we endure an age of volcanism, not seen for aeons. Within the handspan of years, this world will end in fiery death. We stand upon the third world to be called home by the All. But now our race has vanished into time, and we lack the means of finding a fourth world. To answer your needs, you must be willing to answer ours.
Relocating you to another world is no difficulty. There are fewer than a dozen of you. It is agreed. Perhaps we may even find a way to prevent another's mind from being sacrificed. He inclined his head towards the figure of the cowering girl.
That would be preferable, but we have not as of yet discovered a means. Still, if you will find us a haven, I will answer your queries. A bargain has been set. This, then, I propose. Upon my world, I have means to ensure a place of safekeeping for you and yours. I am counted kin to our king by adoption, and he will be favourably disposed to my request. But know that my world stands in peril, and you will share that risk. That is unacceptable. Then we shall have no bargain, and all will perish. For I will fail in my undertaking, and this world will vanish in a cloud of flaming gases.
The woman remained grave in appearance. After a long silence, she said,
I shall amend our bargain. I will provide you with the power of the Oracle in exchange for safe haven when you have completed your quest. I read the future, and as we near agreement, the lines of probability resolve themselves, and the most likely future is revealed to my sight. Even as we speak, I see that you will undertake, and it is a way fraught with perils.
She stood silently for a moment and then softly said,
Now I understand what you face. I agree to these terms, as you must.
Pug shrugged. Agreed. When all has been favourably resolved, we shall carry you to a place of safety.
Return to the cavern.
Pug opened his eyes. Tomas and the servants of the Oracle stood as they had when he had begun the mind contact. He asked Tomas,
How long have I been standing here? A few moments, no longer.
Pug stepped away from the girl. She opened her eyes, and her voice was strong, untainted by madness, but carrying a hint of the alien woman's speech.
Know that darkness unfolds and gathers, coming from where it has been confined, seeking to regain that which was lost, to the utter ruination of all you love, to the redemption of all you hold in terror. Go and find the one who knows all, who has from the first understood the truth. Only he can guide you to the final confrontation. Only he.
Tomas and Pug exchanged glances, and even as Pug spoke, he knew the answer to his question. Whom must I seek? The girl's eyes seemed to pierce his soul. Calmly, she said,
You must find Macross the Black.
Crazy. The hell is going on over on Kick? Anyways. Val, good night, rest well. So very glad you were able to join us for the time. I hope you rest deeply and that you rise tomorrow, ready to conquer the day. Saunters in, orders a drink, and settles into her favourite chair. 9:45 at night, and people are texting for details on things I haven't done yet. Gotta love that. You got the stone nerd part from your grandmother, it's fair enough. I got the story nerd bit from my grandfather, so fair to say, fair to say. And that is where the chapter ends, my friends. With us now finding out that the linchpin in the whole of the story is back on Macross the Black again. Oh, in excess. Yes, yes, Bethany. I haven't thought about in excess in years, though. Many, many, many years. Alright, I think we can start the next chapter, but I don't know that we'll be able to finish it because it's very long. I'll give it a look, Frost. I'll give it a look. So, I ask you, friends, would you like to do another chapter? Would we like to have another chapter tonight? Or at least part of one. I think we could probably make it about halfway through the chapter before I need to attend to other things. We got about 90 minutes left. So I just started a new book, The Will of the Many. I don't know if anyone has read it, but it seems promising so far. Lovey, are you familiar with a book called The Will of the Many? Alright, well, let me get up and stretch, friends, and then we will do another chapter. Hang on, I want to look up the book that Valkyrie just said. I started typing The Will of the Valkyrie. The Will of the Many. By James Ilsington. Well, it's well rated. People seem to enjoy it. Yep, Runcibar's very, very, very apt. Frost, I appreciate you for reminding me. The Will of the Valkyrie, yeah. Yeah, it's well rated across the board, so, and James Islington is a very, very popular writer from what I know. He's Australian. Bear ought to know. All Australians know each other, we know that. So, he's probably Bear's neighbor, if we're being honest. What a weird thing to say as a cliche, or as a stereotype that all Australians know each other. I had somebody come in on YouTube years ago. No, I guess it wasn't that. It was probably about a year and a half ago. Who legitimately thought, or either they were trolling or legitimately thought that all Irish folk knew each other, which I found to be very hilarious. I read the Lycanus trilogy by him, and it was one of the better series I've read. Excellent. It's one of those infiltrating a class system type stories, Lost Prince and all that. Sort of like a Prince and the Pauper sort of thing, yeah? Alright, friends, I'm gonna run ads for you over on Twitch real quick, and then I'm gonna stretch, and we'll be right back. Martin, hello, long time no see, friend. Yeah.
What do I do? Do I just bite into it like a granola bar?
Take a slice of it. And then, well, no, use the butter knife that's up there. There's a metal knife that's sitting on the counter. Yeah, right there.
It's covered with crap.
It's got banana on it. Just rinse it off. Just slice you a slice of it. Martin, hello, my friend. I apologize. No one was in here. You caught me right on the break. I hope you're doing all right. We'll see if Martin comes back. But
It's honey.
yeah, don't drip it all over the floor. All that waxy goodness, huh?
Ah, really different texture than I thought it would.
What did you think the texture was gonna be?
Thought it was gonna be like a little crunch. Like,
No, that's cooked honeycomb, you doofus. You have to you can bake it or fry it, and it takes that texture. But like that, it's just wax,
wow.
just bee vomit and poop.
That's on the level enjoyable.
Yeah.
How chewy it is.
Boo, Matty, boo, boo.
Oh, I gotta put that in the fridge. Oh, there's no way I'm eating that if you give the dog food. Am I literally just chewing on wax right now? Is this not digestible?
No, it's digestible, but it is just wax.
It's starting to taste like fish.
It's starting to taste like fish. So he just had raw honeycomb, and it's just snacked on raw honeycomb. Oh boy! I took off the heathen slice.
Yeah,
So
this is a compensate thing.
just so everybody's aware, Bear earlier said that the reason why everybody thinks all Australians know each other is because they all go to the pub, and that's why, it's just one big pub. And this is true. You guys may not know this. This is the truth. If you've never been to Australia, you wouldn't know. But Queensland is not a city. It's just one giant pub, and that's the pub that all Australians go to. And it's massive. So they might not encounter each other in the pub. It might be that you could walk for days in the pub and not encounter every Australian in Australia. But yeah, Queensland, it's not even a city. It's just a giant pub. And now you all know. You all learned something new today. Hey Castle, do you know my great uncle Seamus? Sorry, I had to. It's funny. I actually have an uncle named Seamus. I watched Robert Irwin's dance. Did Robert Irwin just get married? Or something of the like? It's a very important thing. Bless you, my love. The Irwins are beautiful people. Steve's children are absolutely lovely. So talk, hello, welcome in. I didn't see you drop in. Oh, he's on Dancing with the Stars. I feel like I would have known. I would have at least got wind if Robert Irwin was getting married. But he was on Dancing with the Stars, so that makes sense. I mean, it doesn't. Not that it makes sense. Castle, you made me laugh and I nearly choked on the heathen pizza. It'll do that to you. Robert Irwin is hot, respectfully. His father was attractive, respectfully. Yeah, he was bound to get it. was bound to get a little bit of that. And he dedicated it to his mom. That's beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. Yeah, I don't necessarily like all of the things that the Australia Zoo does now, but I do really like Robert Irwin. I think that he's very much doing his best to live up to the legacy his father left behind. Robert Irwin is indeed blessed by the chair, Matty. The chair places its blessings upon Robert Irwin. They did You'll Be in My Heart from Tarzan. That is adorable. That is I'm gonna have to look it up after we're done with story time. That is absolutely adorable. My crush told me he thought I was cute. Well, that's good. That's the kind of thing you want. You do. It's better when your crush finds you attractive as well. Have tissues ready. It was so good. I will. You know, my father loved Dancing with the Stars. I've never really had any particular opinion about it, but my father loved Dancing with the Stars when he was alive. All right, friends. I think we're all caught up with everybody. Beauty and Blasphemy and Kayla are holding up the chat over on TikTok. We've got the Twitchers who are keeping everything running there. And we're pretty quiet everywhere else. I think Kristalla and Tyson are holding up over on the YouTube portal. Alright. My crush crushed me. Guys, don't tell anyone, alright? I'm gonna tell you a secret. I actually work with my crush. She works in the cubicle across from me, and she is incredibly cute. She's very adorable. I have been crushing on her for years now, and I don't know if she knows, but I've got it back. Her name is Una. Yeah, that's true. But don't tell anyone, because I don't even know if she knows. I don't even know if she knows who I am, if I'm being honest. He said completely dishonestly. But yeah, she's such a wonderful woman. What do you guys think I should do to get her attention? To get her to like me back? Do you think? What do you think would? I mean, you guys know who I'm talking about, right? You guys know who my crush is. I find that if you just be very, very human with people, just talk to people. Don't lift people up. Irish sword dancing, that would get her to not like me, I think, Matty. Have you ever watched Irish sword dancing? It is not the most impressive or masculine thing one could do. You have to work really hard not to lift people up onto pedestals, Kayla. You just have to remember that the person across from you is... Talking to her and telling her stories is probably a good start. That's true. That's true. Just be yourself. Okay. Woman! Come and kiss me. It didn't work, guys. I was being myself. I took Bear's advice and it didn't work. Shall I try again? Woman! Come kiss me. Come kiss me. Never mind, it worked the second time.
I'm watching my tutorials.
Never heard of Irish sword dancing. Irish sword dancing is a very it's an offshoot of river dancing, Kristalla. And river dancing is much more impressive than Irish sword dancing. Irish sword dancing looks a little bit like ballet in a kilt. So it's not exactly the It can be impressive. There are certain Irish sword dances that are impressive. That's a good tactic too. Even the embarrassing parts when you're excited. Yeah, I'll just be a puddle over here, and that will happen. Matty, go and look up videos. Irish sword dancing is kind of hilarious. It was a for a long time it was a sort of like an intimidation tactic to show a Irish warrior's prowess, and it is interesting. It is an interesting part of our history. Oh no, I told her she didn't have to. She was watching tutorials. She's doing work right now. That's why I said that's all right, because she was getting up to come over where she was watching her work tutorials. So it depends on the video. Some of them are very funny, Matty. But just more than anything, it looks a little bit ridiculous. Kev, hello, welcome in. You're just in time for the second half of Storytime, as a matter of fact. I just wanted to look at them like shiny rock I found. But that's not how people are, though. If the person already said that they think you're cute, then you might as well just talk to them and see what comes of it. Go have coffee. Humanize them a little bit. The most that you have to lose. What did I do? What did I do this time? Because it can do low visual quality static image. No, I'm sitting here right now. Oh, good lord. TikTok's trying to kick us off again. They said that it's just static imagery. I guess I'm sitting still, but what do you want me to do, dance? That's so sweet. I love that you two care for each other, seemingly genuinely. I hope that it seems that way. I genuinely love her to death. And I think that I can't speak on her behalf, but I think she loves me as well. And we go out of our way to make sure that each other has an easier life, or at least a more enjoyable life. And I think that that's foundational to a healthy relationship. I haven't had a chance to, Bear. I've been shooting, writing, and editing nonstop since Saturday. But I'll look at it tomorrow. I'll have a little bit of free time tomorrow. Sword dance for TikTok Castle, or would TikTok ban you for that? I have no idea. It's not as aggressive as it sounds. You literally play swords like this. You play swords like that on the ground, and then you dance between the edges of the sword. It is it's interesting. I'll post a video of it over in the guilds for everyone to look at, and you can decide if it's you can decide for yourself. You can decide for yourself. Months, hello. I just saw you were in. I hope that you're doing well, my friend. I hope you're enjoying your week. All right, friends, we're gonna get back to story time. Oh, I just threw my. What did I do? Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. Found it. All right. We are on chapter 5 of A Darkness at Sethanon. Cridy, which means we're back in Mid-Kemia. Yeah, the worst thing that can happen, and I know a lot of us fear rejection, a lot of us fear failure. The things that will happen in real life are not nearly as bad as what happens inside of your head. I can't remember who it was that said it, but someone said, I have suffered a great many tragedies, some of which actually happened. And that is to say that we will make a great many things inside of our heads tragedies. But when you put it out into the world, it's not quite as scary as it is when you let it blow up inside your mind. And you only get one go. You only get to go one time in life as far as we know. So you might as well just go for the things that you want, because the only thing between you and the things that you want is the effort and the time that it takes to get them. So the only difference between you and somebody who has what they want is whether or not you put in the time. And you're not going to get everything that you want, because some things are not suited for you. But if you go after a thing and you don't get it, or you find out you don't want it when you get there, then you know it wasn't suited for you, and it's good. That's a good thing when you find out a thing you wanted isn't suited for you, because now you no longer have to desire a thing that isn't good for you. Bottom line. It truly is foundational. I've seen the show from the inside, where everyone seems happy, but it's really arguing and angry when others aren't around. So when I see what you have, it's refreshing. A lot of people are perturbed by the lady and I's relationship because we do not fight or bicker about anything. We will occasionally make fun of each other when one of us says something dumb, or when we do something silly. But it's all in good spirit. Like, if I mess up, she'll jab at me, and if she messes up, I'll poke at her. Because that's well, first of all, it's a familial thing. That's what everyone in our family does. But it is this thing where there's no dishonesty, there's no backtracking, there's no hiding. We're just frank with each other all the time. So there's never any fighting, because all of it's always out in front. We don't ever have to wonder what the other one is feeling or thinking, because when one of us clams up, the other one will be like, hey, you're being a clam. And we work it out. Because there's no point in constantly fighting and disagreeing and battling, because nothing gets solved that way. Milo, thank you for the raid. Hang on, let me I need to shout you and Matty out, actually. Let's get Milo in there. Oh, no. And then we'll do... That's how Mason and I are. We pick on each other, and we'll occasionally have disagreements, but we never fight. We're each other's best friends, and it's amazing. Yeah, my last relationship was fraught with fighting and bickering and eggshell walking. And when the lady and I finally decided to get together, because we were friends and we worked together first, and it's so much better when we're not at odds. You know, we realized that we work so well together that we might as well be together. And when we gave it a try being together, it just all worked incredibly well. But Ivor de Castro, hello and welcome in. Grab a seat. We're actually about to start a second chapter in A Darkness at Sethanon. Dan was playing Silk Song. I've been lurking. How did it go? Everett is supposed to be... He's going to be playing Silk Song here in a bit. Probably not for stream, but he's going to be playing it. And... I beat Hollow Knight ages ago. It's been a while since I played. Let's give Milo a toot on the radio. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. He's got a death count. We have a death count, and that's how it's going. Well, yeah, that's about how these Souls-like games, even when they are more like the Metroidvania kind, that's how they usually go. Good night, Kayla. Rest well. I'm sorry if you're already gone. I'm sorry I missed that you were leaving, but rest well. Good night. I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. Friendship is key to a healthy relationship. Yes, absolutely. Well, and Valkyrie, you know this better than some, but in our family we have this rule. We teach our children to be good children. To be a good child, you have to want to learn, and you have to be obedient. Those are things that children are supposed to do. They're supposed to learn, and they're supposed to be obedient. Why? Because they're the adults in their life know better, at least generally speaking, and their job is to absorb things, to learn. That is the job of a child. If you learn to be a good child, then it makes it easier to learn to be a good adult. Good adults learn responsibility, they learn how to care for one another, they learn how to care for themselves, and they learn ability. These are things that are expected of good adults. If you learn how to be a good adult, you will have good relationships. And having a good relationship means that you consider the other person and you ensure that the other person is considering you, and that is a healthy interaction. If you are a good adult and you have good relationships, you'll be a good spouse. Because in relationships, at least the way that we look at it in our family, and we have for hundreds of years, is that I have to take care of me, and then I take care of my spouse. Because if I am unhealthy, then my spouse will be unhealthy. That doesn't mean that I neglect my spouse. That means I understand that we have become one person, and if I'm not handling my end and being healthy, then I am not holding up my end of the bargain. I need to manage my mental and physical health. I need to handle my spiritual and emotional health. I need to keep me in check and me on par. My wife can't exercise for me. She can't eat for me. She can't make sure that I'm going to bed and waking up and reading and all of these things. Those are things I have to do. And she has to do the same. And once we become a solid couple, once we become a one being, then we can be good parents. And good parents will inevitably raise good children. But good parents put each other first. Our relationship is the foundation on which our children's lives are built. So if our relationship is good and strong, that will overflow in abundance into the children that we're raising. This is how my family looks at relationships and how we look at marriage and child rearing and all of that, is that those things build on one another. If you don't have if you never learn to be a good child, you likely won't be a good adult. If you never learn how to be a good adult, you likely won't learn how to be a good spouse. Like, these things are chained. And the problem is that usually, especially in society today, we're missing one of those things. Actually, him playing while it's on stream, we have been joking around together, more and more, being more goofy together and finding it a nice sense. That's good, yeah. The lady and I love to play games together. We haven't done it in a while because we've been working so much. But it's definitely something that we love to do. Invisible Plague, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the tavern. You've marked the tavern on your map. You should be able to find your way back, should you desire another story. I need someone who is willing to be patient with me. No, you always have to be patient with your spouse, but you also have to make sure that you are not making excuses. And I'm not saying that you are, but you have to make sure you don't make excuses for yourself. You also have to make sure that you are not being unintentionally cruel to yourself. You have to, there's a balance, right? Because if you only ever talk about how terrible you are and how you always fail, that's just self-deprecation. There's no prospect of growth in that, because you're just beating yourself up. But if you are critical with yourself, you say, am I doing everything I can to be the strongest I can be and mitigate the me problems and lift up the me strengths? That's how you be a good adult. You take responsibility for yourself. But in a relationship, the lady and I have to be very patient with each other on different things. We both have an issue where we'll get buried in work or we'll get buried in a thing we're doing. Like, if either one of us is reading a book that we like, we lose all track of time. If we don't set an alarm or something of the like, we could sit and read all day. And it's the same thing like for playing a game or binging an anime or something of the like. We will sit for hours and just, if it's interesting and we really like it, we'll go through it. Okay, hello, greeting and hallucinations to you as well. I hope everyone's day is treating them kindly, and we hope the same to you. I hope you're enjoying yourself. Grab your seat and settle in. Crystal, you said I see the wisdom in that. Right. Proper foundations lay out how everything in life will go. Absolutely, Valkyrie, absolutely. Una has been playing with me lately, though. Yes, indeed she has. I found the thing that helped my husband and I the most is always assuming the best of the... That is something that is sort of a lost art in the day as well, quote. I always advise young people because the lady and I, we mentor a lot of young folk. I always advise that you should never assume that someone is being antagonistic in a general neutral setting, right? Like if there's nothing to tell you that you need to be wary of people around you, then generally speaking, like when people come into comments, we get hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comments a week on Facebook and YouTube and so on. And there are a lot of people who come in very aggressively. And I have taken to, because it's the best thing you can do, is just assuming the best of everyone. Assume that that person is just, like, they've seen this argument a bunch of times, or they've seen this point about it, and they think that they're assuming something. So think that everyone comes in with the best of intention. Don't assume that anyone instantly hates you or is angry. Now, often, as this happens with social media comments all the time, that will rapidly degrade in a lot of instances. But if you always assume that the other person has the best of intentions, at least when the situation does not require anything else, always assume that the other person has the best of intentions, you will be much happier and your relationships will be much healthier. If you never assume malice as a first, like obviously if you've been kidnapped and you're locked up and you have kidnappers, then yes, you should assume the worst of that, but use rationality. But in other instances, if you're with your spouse, you shouldn't assume your spouse is your enemy. You shouldn't assume your children are your enemies. Or sometimes your children are your enemy. That happens. That'll happen on occasion. But generally speaking, you should always give the assumption of magnanimity to the people who you're around all the time. And that's sort of a lost art. I'm still around. I'm attempting to tidy arrange my small living space, but so I can put some things in better spots. That's all right. Perfectly acceptable, Bethany. Yes, everything you're saying is things I've had to teach myself for the last few years. I was never taught to care for myself or like myself. Tried expressing to my sister once that our parents weren't bad parents, but they weren't good either. That's a thing that a lot of people struggle with, Kristalla, is that most parents over the last, I'd say probably 3 or 4 generations, and a lot of parents in general just weren't prepared to be parents. And you can hold spite and anger against them for all their failures if they were abusive and things. Like, you can be angry at them, but you can also just admit and say, you know what? They did the best that they could. It wasn't good. They were not good parents. They did the best that they knew how. I'm gonna forgive them, and I'm gonna move on from it. And I'm not gonna let them be the reason why I don't treat me well. She took great exception to that because they made sure we had all of our physical needs cared for. That doesn't always mean that your parents are putting you at the top of the, like, sometimes your parents will just buy you things to shut you up. That's not being a good parent. Just because or your parents will provide everything, but then they won't mentor you, they won't teach you. That's not being a good parent. And that doesn't mean that you have to be angry at your parents forever for it, but you have to remember that they did the best they could with what they had, and it might not have been good. So you move on. And it is hard. I'm not saying it's hard. It's easy. It is a difficult thing to do. Rabbits and I were friends before we started dating, and now we're coming on 26 years of marriage this coming January, which is a truly exceptional and celebratory thing, Bear. I'm so happy for the two of you. It's such a wonderful thing. Sonomi, hello, good to see you. 3 crazy cops goblins, they can be my enemies someday. Yeah. Your children will actively attempt to be your enemy. It's you who has to make sure that you demand their allegiance, at least when they're little. When they get older, they can do whatever they want. Within reason, of course. It's a personal fear of failure. I'm working on it. I try to see the best in people. Oh, I don't necessarily mean see the best in people, because most people are, like, the vast majority of people are selfish and self-serving. So it's not about seeing the best in people necessarily, but it's assuming that when people approach you, until they prove otherwise, that they're approaching you with some level of magnanimity. Because if you're always assuming that people are always out to get you, it's really exhausting, since most people don't really have the energy to be anything but selfish. So just assuming, especially with people in your life, that they're not, don't assume malice right away is more the point. Cristella, I wish I could say the same. My father was abusive, but I've learned that he was made that way by his own parents, particularly his mother. He was a victim, and that's a good way to frame it, Key. I don't necessarily think you need to look at it from like the victim oppressor mindset necessarily. I know a lot of people like that. I don't care for that particular way of looking at it. But yeah, he is a product of his own parents, and he did the best that he knew how. And you don't have to excuse that behavior, but you know the reason, and you just say it was bad. It was a bad thing, and I'm going to forgive these people who did the best they could, and it was a very bad job. Are you going to forgive the people? They did a bad job. They did the best they could, and it was terrible. They were not good parents. But you are going to learn from their mistakes, and you're going to be better for that. And you're not going to cling to that hot coal that was handed to you. They did do the best they knew how with the hand that they were dealt. Right. My parents absolutely should not have been parents. My mother, or my father rather, basically sold me to my grandfather, but when I was a baby. And I grew up with a grandfather and with my aunts and uncles, and it was not a particularly loving upbringing. I had the benefit of education, but I grew up very sparsely. I did not have a lot of things. I did not have a lot of connections, and it took me many, many years after I was an adult and away from my grandfather to be able to build relationships and friendships because I didn't have that ability growing up. Thank you for this. Is there a place in the tavern where we can discuss philosophical things like this? Yeah, there are a couple. There are, you can go into the Salty Spittoon, or there's the Edgelord's Round Table, which is where we talk about things that people might have a little bit more trouble, like, discussing openly. But yeah, there's a thing. Alright, Bear, we'll see you when you get back, brother. I appreciate you. I think that one of the Milu said, I have their allegiance, they just attempt mutiny occasionally, normal as kids do. Right. Every child tries to usurp the ruler of their kingdom, right? I think one of the best decisions I ever made was to not become a parent. I think you would be a great parent, Frost. I don't think that you need to be, but I think that you have a very fostering and a very wonderful outlook on life. I think that would be great. Martin! I literally sat down 60 seconds after you dropped your first message. I'm so glad to see you, brother. I'm glad you dropped back in. My grandfather had his last child when he was in his 60s. And my grandmother, same thing. Last one. Although the victim oppressor mindset is a lie and a trap, I don't subscribe to it myself. In a world is far more complicated. I agree, Keith. That's a smart way to look at it. There is so much more. Human nature is so much more simple and complex than that at the same time. Isabella, hello. You are spectacular. Are you talking about me? Well, thank you kindly. I appreciate you for that. Well, my book is becoming more and more entwined with the tavern. I love it. Okay, alright, I need to get back on story because we're trying to get through at least another half chapter tonight. But Martin, brother, I'm glad you dropped back in. I literally sat down 60 seconds after you left. Before you caught me on my break, and then you flittered away like a bat in the night. The road is long and I am tired. Well, what have you had going on, my friend? I do appreciate everyone's insight and wisdom they're sharing, as do I. The wealth of human experience is one of the most important things that you can tap into, because what it will tell you is that what you specifically are experiencing is difficult. And it is unique to you. No one else in existence will ever experience the things that you are experiencing the way that you are experiencing them. That's a very important aspect of human nature. Your particular chemical makeup is unique entirely to you, so your life experience is the only time that life will ever be experienced this way. However, all human beings experience pain. We don't all experience it the same way. We don't all experience it to the same severity, but all human beings experience pain. We all experience loss. We all experience life. We all experience death. While you and I will never experience the flowing of water over our hand in the exact same way, we all will experience water flowing over our hand. And that's important because you know then that we have a shared experience. We feel cold, we feel hot. So it means that while our experience is important because it shows an insight into what that experience does and means, our experience is not tantamount because it is shared. Our unique experience is meaningless in the context of it being unique, but it is exceptional in the sense of it being shared. We all share this experience, but at the same time, we have a very unique instance within that experience. That is why these conversations about how we go through life and the commonalities of wisdom. We have a saying in our family, good wisdom is always good, and that's because good wisdom will transcend time. The fire will always be hot. Fire will always be hot. That's good wisdom. Don't put your hand in the fire, and you'll get burned. My sympathy, there was abuse that happened, but I didn't see it as that was trauma I learned. I'm trying not to say any words out loud that will get me in trouble on TikTok. I apologize for it. They made sure we didn't grow up like they did. Yeah, fair enough. I'm walking through hell blind and alone. Well, you don't. I don't mean to do the internet thing, Martin. You don't have to be alone, my friend. You're always welcome to talk with me or with Bear. We all go through our dry times and hard times, and it is hard. You know, there are major lows to be expected. Oh yes, I came here for the reading. I spent the day rewriting and editing. Wanted a chance to wind down, so I'm listening and crocheting. Oh good, I'm glad to hear it. Quick question about the writing contest. Does the last line in the work need to be exactly as you've written? Or can it be expressed? It can be expressed in your own style. The most important part from that is that the final scene is the encountering of the door and the details of the door. The only reason why we put so much detail into that is because the details of the door have to be common amongst all the stories, but otherwise, it is beautiful. It is, you can write it however you like. No trouble, Ross, no trouble. I'm gonna jump into YouTube for a minute to talk about crocheting. You better hurry up. They're in the heat of the conversation. All right, friends. I'm gonna get back to reading. You can continue conversing. If anybody has any other questions for me, please don't hesitate, and I'll address them as I can. Martin, if you need to talk, my friend, please message Bear or I, and we'll be more than happy to talk with you about what you've got going on, brother. You don't have to be alone. The tavern is a place for camaraderie, mate. And we all struggle sometimes. That's, again, a part of the human experience. And when we're in it, when we're buried in it, it feels overwhelming. It feels like there's nothing on the other side. That's hard, brother. Sadly, not an uncommon story for spouses to leave for someone who is younger or richer or more exciting. And there's nothing that I can say that will make it better. It is a dreadful happening. And I'm dreadfully sorry that you're going through it, mate. Send me a message. We'll talk about it. Mr. Boy Yobish. Just got here and would love to talk about crocheting, although I'm still a newbie. That's all right. I don't know how to say it. So is it Mish Yobish? Is that how it's said? I'm welcome in, so very glad that you could join us. You've marked the tavern on your map. You'll now be able to find your way back for more story time. Milu, who is the one, they're talking about it. We have multiple portals to the tavern open. They're over in the YouTube chat. No purpose or direction, I have no rudder. We were just messaging each other, Castle. All right, good. Thank you, Baird. I appreciate you. I understand that feeling. I can't say I understand how you're feeling. I know what it feels like to feel like you're without direction. I don't know exactly how you're feeling, but I have felt in a similar way myself. And I know that it feels dreadful when you're there. Yes, you can say Mish since it's a mouthful. Alright, I'll say Mish. I appreciate that. That's Martin over on the Facebook portal. He's suffering from a broken family. His wife left him for someone else and took their children with him. And he's hurting badly right now because of it. Yeah, Milo is currently in both. Yeah, and there's no words that can make it better, Martin. But I will say that you are strong enough to make it through it, and that you will find that the land is still green on the other side. Just let yourself hurt for a little bit. That's really all that you can do for right now. Just don't let yourself be buried in it. As I guess, I dearly love when you talk about these deep matters of the heart. Send some love to our new friend on the other platform. I certainly will. Absolutely. And see, there's all sorts of love here for you, Martin. Everyone across the tavern. You have beauty and blasphemy sending good thoughts through your pain, friend. Let Martin know I sympathize. She's proven her lack of worth. I hope you will find someone more worthy of you. Martin, I'm recently divorced. Get to know yourself again. It is hard. It's not going to be easy. These things never are. I will be Sun Wukong under the mountain. For a bit. And then the Tang monk will come along and give you new purpose. Every isolated hero and villain eventually has a chance to see the sun again. Bear, thank you for the subscription, my friend. I appreciate you. You know, tips to the tavern keeper always appreciated, brother. Thank you kindly. Yeah, and Matty just went through a breakup a while back. Obviously, everyone's experience is different. There's no point in comparing pain, because we all, like I just said, we all experience things differently. So for some people, it'll hit harder than others, and you can't just get rid of the hurt, but you can decide what you do with it. There is a lot of terrible dread that will hit you in your life. Right, and that's really the point of what we were talking about earlier, is that we will all experience these things in a different way. And there is comfort in knowing that we all go through these same things. It's different for everyone. But we have the infinite ability within us to be resilient and come out of the other side of hardship. That's the beautiful thing about human nature, is that we're infinitely resilient. And Martin, I know you feel alone, but you have at least pseudo friends, internet friends. And I think that many people in here, because you've been in the tavern for a long time, I think many people would argue that they are your friends, especially Bear and others who you've talked to for a long time. And we're all willing to be here, if you want us to be, while you figure things out. I tried to escape his poem, so I shall sit and reflect. I think that is probably what is best for you. Again, like they said, getting to know yourself. Tavern is family, no exceptions. I agree, Frost. I have it in knitting next to my bed and carrying cross-stitch with me in my purse. While the delay on YouTube, is the delay on YouTube bad? That's not surprising. There's a lot of latency issues with YouTube, so it's not really surprising. Okay, friends, I'm gonna get back into reading. Or I, Jubaji, doomed to 1,000 lifetimes of tragic love? Well, let's hope not. I think that Jubaji is doomed to the 1,000 lifetimes of tragic love because he decided that. Your life is what you decide to do with the things that you're given. And yes, many of them will be bad, as what has happened to you now, but you can make good out of bad. It takes manure to make a garden. Yeah. See, there's all sorts of good and bad up and down. And same for me, Martin. You can reach out. I take forever to respond to messages, but I will respond if you message me. Good night, Quirt. Rest well, my friend. I apologize for getting off onto the waffles. Alright, we're going to try and get through at least another half chapter tonight, my friends. Chapter 5 of A Darkness at Sethanon. Friday. Martin crouched. He motioned for those behind to remain quiet as he listened for movement in the deep thicket. Sundown was approaching, and animals should have been appearing at the edge of the pond. But something had driven away most of the game. Martin hunted for the source of that disruption. The woods were silent except for the sound of birds overhead. Then something rustled the bush. A stag leapt forward and bounded over the edge of the clearing. Martin dodged to his right, avoiding the stag's antlers and flying hooves as the frightened animal sprang past. He could hear the scurrying of his companions as they avoided being trampled by the fleeing animal. Then Martin heard a deep grumbling issuing from where the stag had fled. Whatever had spurred the animal into flight was approaching through the undergrowth. Martin waited, his bow ready. He watched as a bear limped into view. At a time it should be getting fat and glossy, this animal was weak and scrawny, as thin as if it had just emerged from a long winter's sleep. Martin studied it as it lowered its head to drink from the pool. It was fair enough, Martin. Fair enough. Did I talk all the way up to ads? Alright, we'll run ads and then three... Okay, we're going to run ads and then we'll go. Yeah. Sit here in the corner and listen. Fair enough, Martin. Fair enough. Fill your glass and I'll do my very best to regale you into a little bit of relaxation. See if it helps. I know some of you don't particularly care for these long and laborious emotional discussions. I try not to do them too often because I know for some people, just looking back on emotions and past things and having to deal with them, it's difficult and it's not always pleasant. It's usually not pleasant, as a matter of fact. But I think that these sorts of discussions are important to have, and in a place like the tavern where what we care about is your growth, right? Because genuinely, the lady and I, we want to see all of you be happy and healthy and succeed. And we don't like to bring in the drama from the outside and deal with all of the bull that you see everywhere else on the internet. I will not lie to any of you, but I also will not be unnecessarily cruel. If you come in here with a problem or a woe, I won't baby anyone. But I will genuinely offer what wisdom I have access to from my own life and from those who have taught me. And if you really just want to be here for a story to sort of cast your woes on, then that's fine as well. It's always our pleasure and privilege, Martin. Always. Your storytelling is so soothing. I'm glad you think so, Isabella. I'm glad you think so. Yeah, I haven't had time this week yet, Maddie. As soon as I read through it, you'll know. Trust me. Thank you, Crystal. It's very kind of you. Well, and it's nice to talk to somebody because, like, even though I'm very critical of the people I care about, I'm not judgmental. Like, I will tell you if you're messing up. Like, if you come in and you're like, "Hey, Castle, I've got a major gambling addiction, and I just can't figure out why I don't have any money," I'm gonna be like, "Well, you daft. Stop gambling. Clearly, you're not very good at it, and gambling is dumb anyways. Don't do that." But I'm not going to be unnecessarily unkind when you're suffering. I will be frank with you, and I will walk with you through those problems. But I won't baby anyone, especially if I care about you. I'm not going to baby you. As a rule, I don't believe in babying anyone, let alone the people I care about, especially the people that I care about. And all of you are foundational to what the lady and I do. Having you all be happy and healthy is a big part of what makes the tavern flourish the way that it does. Definitely agree. It makes the connections deeper for those who want it. I agree, Beauty and Blasphemy, I agree. Petra, hello, how's it going? How are things in the tavern going? How are you and the lady? We're wonderful. She's across from me right now. We're both putting in a lot of work. The next 11 to 12 weeks is going to be a lot of work for the lady and I. We're trying to put out a lot of stories. We're trying to finish up books all before Christmas. There's a lot going on for us, but we're doing well and we're very, very happy about it. Castle, have you had a chance to look into Monkey Farts and Old McDonald's deformed floor? I haven't, Bear. I've been so packed to the gills. Tomorrow, I have a little bit of free time. I'm going to be looking at Maddie's stuff probably tomorrow, and I'm going to go over the songs that have been sent to me, most of them from you. But I'm going to be going over the songs tomorrow too. Hopefully, I don't have anything else that gets hoisted upon me on the morrow. I can focus on tavern things. On a happy note, for me anyways, I'm going on a 4th date with someone on Saturday. I'm excited about where I'm taking them. Wonderful! That is spectacular. I hope to hear magical things about your date, Bethany. Alright, friends. Ads have finished for our friends over on Twitch, so let us go ahead and continue. I don't like to be babied too. Sometimes I just need to be pointed in the right direction. Other times, I just need a soundboard to work through stuff. Other times, just a verbal slap, so to speak. Well, and that's very much the nature of our family and the tavern. I love to have a good time and I love to just enjoy songs and stories, but at the same time, for people that I care about, I want you to live the best life you can. And if I know for certain something that you're doing will make you not live that good life, I will say it. I'm not going to expect you to live up to my standard. I'm not going to expect you to do what I say. But I will always be earnest and honest with you. And it's why sometimes I've had people who were in the tavern who just left because they didn't like that I was being frank with them. But I'm not going to lie to you to comfort you. I refuse to do that. My heart will not allow me to do that. But I'm also not going to be unnecessarily unkind. I will help you to find solutions to your problems. I'm not just going to tell you you're doing something wrong and then not help. I will help you, but I won't lie to you. That's what makes you my brother. You give me the meat and give it to me raw. A great amount of love for you, Martin. A great amount of love. I get a great deal of joy out of silly... As do I, Bear. I love the silly songs. The silly songs are some of my favorites. A verbal slap is because my anxiety can sometimes cloud my... As does happen. As does happen. Well, how scary and fun. I hope it goes well. You meant the heart, but it gave the laughing face. That's very funny, Mish. Alright, back to reading. We got about half an hour left. I think I can get 10 pages in that time. Okay, where was I? 2 nights before, the bear had mauled a farmer who had attempted to defend a milk cow. Martin studied it as it lowered its head to drink from the pool. Some injury had lamed the animal, sickening it and preventing it from getting the food it needed. 2 nights before, the bear had mauled a farmer who had attempted to defend his milk cow. The man had died, and Martin had been tracking the bear since. It was a rogue and had to be killed. The sound of horses carried through the woods, and the bear's muzzle came up as it sniffed the air. A questioning growl escaped its throat as it rose on hind legs, followed by an angry roar as it smelled horses and men. "Damn!" said Martin as he stood, drawing his bow. He had hoped to get a cleaner shot, but the animal would turn and flee in a moment. The arrow sped across the clearing, taking the bear below the neck in the shoulder. It was not a quick killing shot. The animal pawed at the shaft, its growls a bubbling liquid sound. Martin came around the pond, his hunting knife out. His 3 companions behind, Garrett, now huntmaster of Crydy, let fly his arrow as Martin raced towards the bear. The second shaft took the beast in the chest, another serious but not yet fatal wound. Martin sprang at the bear while it pulled at the arrows embedded in its thick fur. The Duke of Crydy's large hunter's knife struck deep and true, taking the weak and confused animal in the throat. The bear died as it hit the ground. Baru and Charles followed. Their bows were at the ready. Charles, short and bandy-legged, wore the same green leather clothing as Garrett's, the uniform of a forester in Martin's service. Baru, the tall and muscular, wore a plaid of green and black tartan, signifying the Iron Hills clan of the Haddati. Slung over his shoulder, leather trousers and buckskin boots. Martin knelt over the animal. He worked at the bear's shoulder with his knife, turning his head slightly at the sweetish, rotting stench that came up from the gangrenous wound. Then he sat back, showing a bloody, pus-covered arrowhead. He said to Garrett in disgust, "When I was huntmaster for my father, I often ignored a little poaching here and there during a lean year. But if you find a man who shot this bear, I want him hung. And if he has anything of value, give it to the farmer's widow. He murdered that farmer as much as if he had shot him in the head instead of the bear." Garrett took the arrowhead and inspected it. "This arrowhead's homecast, Your Grace. Look at this old line running down the side of the head. The man who cast these doesn't fire the heads. He's as sloppy in his fletchery as in his hunting. If we find a quiver of arrowheads with these same flaws, we have our man. I'll pass word to the trackers." Then the long-faced huntmaster said, "If Your Grace had reached the bear before I'd hit it, he might have had 2 murders to charge the poacher with." His tone was disapproving. Martin smiled. "I had no doubt in your aim, Garrett. You're the only man I know who's a better shot than I, and it's the one reason you're huntmaster," Charles said. "And because he's the only one of your trackers who can keep up with you when you decide to hunt?" "You do it at a fast pace, Lord Martin," agreed Baru. "Well," said Garrett, not entirely appeased by Martin's answer, "we might have had one more good shot before the bear ran." Might not. I'd rather jump in here in the clearing with you 3 coming and try to follow it into the brush, even with 3 arrows in it." He motioned towards the thicket a few yards away. "It could get a little tight in there." Garrett looked at Charles and Baru. "No argument to that, Your Grace," he added, "though it got a mite close out there." A calling voice sounded a short way off. Martin stood. "Find out who's making all that noise. It almost cost us this kill." Charles hurried off. Baru shook his head as he regarded the dead bear. "The man who wounded this bear is no hunter." Martin looked about the woods. "I miss this, Baru. I might even forgive that poacher little for giving me an excuse to get away from the castle. Geralt said. It's a thin excuse, my lord. By rights, you should have left this to me and my trackers. Martin smiled. So Fanon will insist, Baru said. Understand. For almost a year I stayed with the hills and now you. I missed the hills and meadows of the Avon Highlands. Geralt said nothing. Both he and Martin understood why the Hidati had not returned. His village had been destroyed by the Moradel chieftain Murad, and while Baru had avenged it by killing Murad, he no longer had a home. Someday he might find another Hidati village in which to settle, but for the time being he chose to wander far from home. After his wounds had healed at Helvendar, he had come to Crydy to guest for a while with Martin. No, not at all. Not at all, Matty. It's why when you started asking for my help, I warned you that my schedule gets to be quite, what's the word? Hectic. Overloaded, I suppose. And yeah, we certainly want to keep Bear around for a while, that's to be sure. Where's Bear saying that he's going somewhere? We want to keep the bear for a good long time. He is a good bear. We like our bear. Oh, hey, no shooting. Oh, I see what you're saying. Christella. Different bear. No relation. Where was I? Charles returned, a soldier of Crydy behind. The soldier saluted and said, "So Master Fanon requests your return at once, your grace." Martin exchanged a quick glance with Baru. What's afoot, I wonder? Baru shrugged. The soldier said, "The sword master took the liberty of sending extra mounts, your grace. He knew you'd left on foot." Martin said, "Lead on." And they followed the soldier to where the others waited with mounts. As they readied themselves to return to Castle Crydy, the Duke felt a sudden disquiet. Fanon stood waiting for them as Martin dismounted. "What is it, Fanon?" said Martin as he slapped the dust on his green leather tunic. "As your grace, forgotten Lord McGill will arrive this afternoon." Martin looked at the lowering sun. "Then he's late." "His ship was sighted beyond the point at Sailor's Grief an hour ago. He'll be passing the Long Point lighthouse into the harbour within the next hour." Martin smiled at his swordmaster. "You're right, of course. I had forgotten." Almost running up the stairs, he said, "Come, talk with me, Fanon, while I change." Martin hurried towards his quarters, once occupied by his father, Lord Warwick. Pages had drawn a hot tub, and Martin quickly stripped off his hunter's garb. He took the strongly scented soap and washing stone and said to the page, "Have plenty of cold fresh water here. The scent of this is something my sister might like, but it cloys my nose." Then the page left to fetch more water. "Now, Fanon, what brings the illustrious Duke of Rhodes from the other side of the kingdom?" Fanon sat upon the settee. "He's simply travelling for the summer. It's not unheard of, your grace." Martin laughed. "Fanon, we're alone. You can drop the pretense. He's bringing at least one daughter of marriageable age." Fanon sighed. "Two.
Miranda's 20, and Inez is 15. Both are said to be beauties.
15? Gods, man, she's a baby. Fannin smiled ruefully.
2 duels have been fought already over that baby, according to my information. Remember, these are Easterners.
Martin stretched out to soak. They do tend to get into politics early back there, don't they?
Look, Martin, like it or not, you're a duke and brother to the king. You've never married. If you didn't live in the most remote corner of the kingdom, you'd have had 60 social visits since your return home, not 6.
Martin grimaced. If this turns out like the last, I'm going to return to the forests and the bears. The Duke's last visit had been from the Earl of Tarloff, vassal to the Duke of Ran. His daughter had been charming enough, but she had tended to be flighty and had giggled, a trait that set Martin's teeth on edge. He had left the girl with vague promises to visit Tarloff someday. Still, he said, she was pretty enough thing.
Pretty has little to do with it, as you well know. Things are still reeling in the East, even though it's approaching 2 years since King Roderick's death. Guy du Bastiras still out there somewhere, doing what only gods knows. Some of his factions still wait to see who will be named Duke of Bastira. With Coldrick dead, and the office of Duke of Rillanon also vacant. The East is a tower of sticks. Pull the wrong one, and it will be all to come down on the king's head. Liam is well advised by Tully to wait for sons and nephews. Then he can put more allies in office. It would do well for you not to lose sight of the facts that the life of the king's family, Martin.
Yes, Sword Master, Martin said with a regretful shake of his head. He knew Fannin was right. Once Liam had elevated him to the position of Duke of Carney, he'd lost a great deal of his freedom, and in even greater losses to come, or so it seemed. 3 pages entered with buckets of cold water. Martin stood and let them pour the water over him. Shivering, he wrapped himself in a soft towel, and then the pages were gone. He said, Fannin, what you say is obviously right, but well, it's not even a year since Arutha and I returned from Morlin. Before that, it was that long tour of the East. Can I have a few months just to live quietly at home?
You did, last winter.
Martin laughed. Very well. But it would seem to me that there's a lot more interest in a rural duke than is required.
Fannin shook his head. More interest than is required in the brother of the king.
None of my line could claim the crown, even if 3 or 4, maybe soon 4, others didn't stand in succession before me. Remember, I abdicated my claim for my posterity.
You're not a simple man, Martin. Don't play the woodsy with me. You may have said whatever you wished on the day of Liam's coronation, but should some descendant of yours be in position to inherit, your vows won't count a tinker's dam if some faction of the Congress of Lords wishes him king.
Martin began to dress. I know, Fannin. But that was meant only to keep people from opposing Liam in my name. I may have spent most of my life in the forest, but when I dined with you, Tolly, Corgan, and Father, I kept my ears open. I learned a lot. A knock came and a guard appeared at the door. Ship flying the banner of Rodez. Clearing Long Point Light, Your Grace. Martin waved the guard out and said to Fannin, I guess we better hurry to meet the Duke and his lovely daughters. Finishing his dressing, he said, I will be inspected and courted by the Duke's daughters, Fannin. But for the gods' love and patience, I hope neither of them giggles. Fannin nodded in sympathy, and he followed Martin from the room. Let's see. Alright, we're going to do 3 more pages, friends. Martin smiled at Duke Miguel's jest. It concerned an Eastern lord Martin had only met once. The man's foibles might have been a source of humour for the Eastern lords, but the joke was lost on Martin. Martin cast a glance at the Duke's daughters. Both girls were lovely, delicate features, pale complexions framed their nearly black hair, and both had large dark eyes. Miranda sat engaged in conversation with the young squire Wilfred, third son of the Baron of Cars, and newly come to court. Inez sat regarding Martin with frank appraisal. Martin felt his neck begin to colour and turned his attention back to her father. He could see why she had been the excuse for a duel between hot-headed youths. Martin didn't know a great deal about women, but he was an expert hunter and he knew a predator when he saw one. This girl might be only 15 years of age, but she was a veteran of the Eastern courts. She would find a powerful husband before too long, Martin didn't doubt. Miranda was simply another pretty lady of the court, but Inez hinted at hard edges Martin found unattractive. This girl was clearly dangerous and already experienced at twisting men to her will. Martin determined to keep that fact uppermost in his mind. Supper had been quiet, as was Martin's usual custom. But tomorrow there would be jugglers and singers, for a travelling band of minstrels was in the area. Martin had little affection for formal banquets after his Eastern tour, but some sort of show was in order. Then a page hurried into the room, skirting the tables to reach the housecarl Samuel's side. He spoke softly, and the housecarl came to Martin's chair. Leaning down, he said, "Pigeons. Just arrived from Ilth, your grace. 8 of them." Martin understood. For so many birds to have been used, the message would be urgent. It was usual to employ only 2 or 3 against the possibility of a bird not finishing its dangerous flight over the Great Tower Mountains. It took weeks to send them back by cart or ship, so they were used sparingly. Martin rose. "If your grace will excuse me for a moment." He rose to the Duke. He said to the Duke of Rodez, "Ladies." He bowed to the 2 sisters, then followed the page out of the hall. In the antechamber of the keep, he found the hawkmaster in charge of the hawk mews and the pigeon coop, standing with the small parchments. He handed them to Martin and withdrew. Martin saw a tiny message. Slips were sealed with the royal crest of Crondor, drawn on the royal paper about them, indicating only the Duke was to open them. Martin said, "I'll read these in my council chamber." So Martin's about to find out that Arutha just died. Thank you for the drink, Frost. I appreciate you. Martin's about to find out that his youngest brother has been murdered. Alone in the council room, Martin saw that the slips had been numbered 1 and 2, 4 pairs. The message had been sent 4 times to ensure it arrived intact. Martin unfolded one of the slips marked 1, and then his eyes widened as he fumbled to open another. The message was duplicated. He then read number 2, and tears came unbidden to his eyes. Long minutes passed while Martin opened every slip, hoping to find something different. Something to tell him he had misunderstood. For a long time he could only sit staring at the papers before him as a cold sickness visited the pit of his stomach. Finally a knock came to the door and he said weakly, "Yes." The door opened and Fannin entered. "You've been gone nearly an hour." He stepped in and saw Martin's drawn expression and red eyes. "What is it?" Martin could only wave his hand at the scraps. Fannin read them, then half staggered backwards to sit in a chair. A shaking hand covered his face for a long minute, and both men were silent.
At last he said, "How could this be?"
I don't know. The message only says an assassin. Martin let his gaze wander around the room. Every stone in the wall and piece of furniture associated with his father, Lord Boric. And of his family, the most of their father had been Arutha. Martin loved them all, but Arutha had been a mirror of Martin in many ways. They had shared a certain way of seeing things and had endured much together. The siege of the castle during the Rift War, while Liam had been absent with their father. The long and dangerous quest to Moray Lane to find Silverthorn. No, in Arutha, Martin had discovered his closest friend in many ways. Elven taught, Martin knew the inevitability of death. But he was mortal and felt an empty place appear within himself. He regained his composure and stood. I have best informed Duke Mageo. His visit is to be short. We leave for Crondor tomorrow. Martin took up as Fannin re-entered the room. I'll take all night and morning to get ready. The captain says your ship.
It will take all night and morning to get ready. The captain says your ship will be available to leave on the afternoon tide.
Martin motioned for him to take a chair and waited a long moment before speaking. How can it be, Fannin? The swordmaster said. I can't answer that, Martin.
I can't answer that, Martin.
Fannin was thoughtful for a moment, then softly said,
You know I share your grief. We all do. He and Liam were like my sons.
I know.
There are other matters that cannot be put off.
Such as?
I'm old, Martin. I suddenly feel the weight of ages upon me. News of Arutha's death makes me again feel my own mortality. I wish to retire.
Martin rubbed his chin as he thought. Fannin was past 70 now. While his mental capacity was undiminished, he lacked the physical stamina required of the Duke's second in command. I understand, Fannin. When I return from Rillanon. Fannin interrupted.
No, it's too long, Martin. Be gone several months. I need a named successor now, so I can begin to ensure he is capable when I leave office. If Gardan was still here, I've no doubt it would be a smooth transition, but with Arutha stealing him away.
The old man's eyes began to tear.
Making him Knight Marshal of Crondor will.
Martin said, I understand. Who did you have in mind? The question was asked absently, as Martin struggled to keep his mind calm.
Several of the sergeants might serve, but with no one of Godhunt's capabilities. No, I had Charles in mind.
Martin gave a weak smile. I thought you didn't trust him. Fannin sighed.
That was a long time back. We were fighting a war. He's shown his worth 100 times since then. And I don't think there's a man in the castle more fearless. Besides, he was a Saronic officer, about equal to a knight lieutenant. He knows warcraft and tactics. He's often spent hours speaking with me about the differences between Saronic warfare and our own. I know this. Once he learns something, he doesn't forget. He's a clever man, worth a dozen lesser men. Besides, the soldiers respect him and will follow him.
Martin said, I'll consider it and decide tonight. What else? Fannin was silent for a time, as if speaking came with difficulty.
Martin, you and I have never been close. When your father called you to serve, I felt, as did others, that there was something strange about you. You were always aloof. You had those odd elvish ways. And now I know that part of the mystery was the truth of your relationship to Boric. I doubted you in some ways, Martin. Sorry to admit that. What I am trying to say is, you honor your father.
Martin took a deep breath. Thank you, Fannin.
I say this to ensure you understand why I say this next. This visit from Duke Miguel was only an irritation before. Now it is an issue of weight. You must speak to Father Tully when you reach Sethanon, and let him find you a wife.
Martin threw back his head and laughed, a bitter, angry laugh. What jest, Fannin? My brother is dead, and you want me to look for a wife? Fannin was unflinching before Martin's rising anger.
You are no longer the huntmaster of Crydy, Martin. Then no one cared. Should you ever wed, or father sons? Now you are the sole brother to the king. The east is still in turmoil. There is no duke in Bastina, Sethanon, or Crondor. Now there is no prince in Crondor.
Fannin's voice became thick with fatigue and emotion.
Liam sits upon a perilous throne, should Bastera venture back into the kingdom from exile. With only Arutha's 2 babes in succession now. Liam needs alliances. That is what I mean. Tully will know which noble houses need to be secured to the king's cause by marriage. If it's Miguel's, little Helcatinese, or even the Torolf's giggler, marry her, Martin, for Liam's sake, and for the sake of the kingdom.
Martin stifled his anger. Fannin had pressed a sore point in him, even if the old swordmaster was correct. In all ways, Martin was a solitary man, sharing little with any man save his brothers, and he had never done well in the company of women. Now he was being told that he must wed a stranger for the sake of his brother's political health, but he knew there was wisdom in Fannin's words. Should the traitorous Guy du Bastira be plotting still, Liam's crown was not secure. Arutha's death showed all too clearly how mortal rulers were. Finally, Martin said, "I'll think about that as well, Fannin." The swordmaster rose slowly. Reaching the door, he turned.
I know you hide it well, Martin, but the pain is there. I'm sorry if it seems I add to it. But what I said needed to be said.
Martin could only nod. Fannin left, and Martin sat alone in his chamber. The soul-moving thing, the shadows cast by the guttering torches in the wall sconces. Whew. And there, friends, is where we're going to end story time for tonight. Yes, there are a few sections in the guild where you can share your creations, to be sure. I literally just fell onto this content this week and subscribed, but this is the first time experiencing live storytelling. It's the best. He's so good at it, and the music in the background. I'm glad you enjoy, Isabella. This is one of our favorite things to gather together like this. Cristalla, you flatter me. I'm glad that you enjoy. Welcome to the tavern. It's a pretty great place to be. Isabella, you can message me through anywhere, and I'll get you a new link. We're probably going to be switching platforms soon, but if you want to get into the guild now, because the guilded the platform we use for the guild, yeah, message me either through Instagram or through Facebook, Isabella, and I will make sure you. Where is it on the channel? All things. Are you all okay with me being all for? We have people from all over the world of all ages. You're absolutely fine. Bear is Bear? Are you in your 50s or 60s? Bear is ancient, to be fair. But yeah, we're of all ages and locations. So, Storytime was lovely. Thank you, Castle. Thank you, Beauty and Blasphemy. It's always a pleasure. Good night, Frost. Rest well. But yeah, Isabella, message me through somewhere and I'll get you a proper link. There is 56. There we go. See? Old as dirt. Not really. Bear's not really that old. We make jokes that he's old because sometimes he's a bit of an old codger, but we love him for it. Good night, Frost. Alright, we're going to do 2 songs this evening. Bear requested a silly song after that wait. Yeah, so you know what? Here, I'll grab one now that I think about it. Since we're here, I'll grab a link and I'll just toss it in for anybody who wants it. I don't know why I was bothering about here. Just post it like this. This should be a proper link to the guild. Dude, I'm older than sin. See, there we go. All right. Bear, what silly song did you have in mind? I don't have your 2, the ones that you had requested. And if anybody else has a second song that they would like as well, I'm going to do 2 songs this evening. So, for anyone who's new, first of all, if you're brand new, I am Castle, this is my tavern, and here we talk about myth and lore and tales of yore, and every now and again, I read you all a bedtime story. This is a tavern at the end of the world, where all stories eventually come to rest, and you've stumbled in through one of the portals that brings you into the tavern when you seek a story. Wonderful. Excellent. The guy who pretends to be a captain. Hoist up the thing! Yeah, why not? Moby Duck or Got No Beard? Let's do Moby Duck. We'll have a bit of a nautical theme tonight. We'll do Hoist Up the Thing, we'll do Moby Duck. I'm not actually sure, but I'll look for you, Bethany. He's in his mid-30s, according to Google. Yeah, this is a whole grievance thing. Roblox bought the company, and now they're shutting down the application, and that's why we have to find a new platform. But that is where we are for now, until we can build another guild out somewhere else for the tavern. It's a whole terrible, unfortunate thing. So Petra says a health to the company. Bear says Moby Duck. Yeah, so I'm still not sure how to do this. How do you describe someone's height in a story? There are a couple of different ways. The easiest way is to compare them to your main character. So you would say something like a head taller than me, or a head or a hand, so. May you all walk in beauty in your dreams tonight. Rest well, Key. It was wonderful to have you. I'm so glad that you joined us, and I'll look forward to you joining us again. We do story time every Tuesday and Thursday. Tuesday is the adult stories, so these are usually more mature stories. And then Thursday we do something that's a little bit more family friendly. No. If I miss something, don't ever feel bad reposting. Because I didn't see that you would ask that, so feel free to repost if I miss something. All right, so we're gonna do Moby Duck. We're gonna do Hoist Up the Thing, and we'll end off on a health to the company. How's that sound? Let's start with Moby Duck. Now, any of you have never heard this before, Fluffy, hello, welcome in. Good to see you. Thank you for the GG. Tips to the Tavern Keeper. Always appreciated, never required. Tim, hello. So no more video. Not for the time being. The lady and I will get back into doing game story time soon, probably next year. But right now we have so much work to do that we don't have the time to do it. The lady does still occasionally do a game stream over on Twitch, Tim, but I just simply don't have the time for it right now. We're producing over 300 short video stories a year, and we're trying to do in upwards of 50 or 60 long ones, and we're working on 3 different books, 2 of which we want to have done by the end of the year. So I wish I could do games with you guys still, but I just don't have the time at the moment. Yeah, I know. So, and if people do like spam pointless things, I'll say stop that. But if I miss something, because the chats go so fast, you're more welcome to say it again. If I didn't see it, if I see it, I'll acknowledge it and I'll tell you I'll come back to it. And then if I don't come back to it, you're welcome to say it again. But generally speaking, if I don't see it, then yes, Floofy, we put out over 300 short videos a year. As this year we're looking to have done probably about 320 short videos. And all of them are unique. So they're, you know, it's quite a bit of work. It's quite a bit of work. But we're happy to do it, and we enjoy doing it. And it's more stories that you guys get to enjoy, so it's a pleasure from us. Alright, but if you've never been into Storytime before, at the end, we do songs. We don't sing the songs well, we sing them just to have fun. And this is a song about a evil duck called Moby Duck. So let's get into it. After 14 years I left the sea for a life upon a lake. After all the storms I'd seen, I needed a good break. I thought still waters would mean peace for me, but that was a mistake. For the place I chose was bedeviled by a giant evil drake, a mallard of such malice twice the size of any man, a bill to give you nightmares and a monstrous wingspan. You cannot hope to fight it, so avoid him if you can. The terrifying waterfowl, the beast beyond the dam. Row ho, with all your might. Row with harpoons loaded, spoiling for a fight. Row ho, and with any luck, we'll win the day and do away the dreaded Moby Duck. I'm not one for surrender, so a vengeful oath I swore. I gathered up me hearties like so many times before. We shod our ship with weapons and prepared to go to war, till the fetid, feathered, fearsome flying duck would breathe no more. Row ho, with all your might. Row with harpoons loaded, spoiling for a fight. Row ho, and with any luck, we'll win the day and do away the dreaded Moby Duck. There was bonny brave Marie who to her arms she waved goodbye, and handsome Jack whose duck attack left him without an eye. The Derby twins with one leg each on deck were standing by, only a couple dozen limbs between a crew of 25. Row ho, with all your might. Row with harpoons loaded, spoiling for a fight. Row ho, and with any luck, we'll win the day and do away the dreaded Moby Duck. I was reading what Matty said and I'd lost track of time. Fluffy, thank you for the pumpkins, my friend. Tips to the tavern keeper are always appreciated. Thank you kindly. The fight raged on for several hours, defend and then attack. With beating of those wicked wings, our boat began to crack. The beast reared up to finish the job, and with a mighty quack, I rammed my harpoon in its throat and made a tasty snack. Row ho, us back to shore. We'll drag his broken body back and roast it on an oar. Row ho, barbecue the beast. With hoisin sauce and pancakes, we'll have the biggest feast. Oh, row ho, with all our might. We roll with harpoons loaded, spoiling for a fight. Row ho, we had all the luck. We won the day and did away the dreaded Moby Duck. We won the day and did away the dreaded Moby Duck. And that's Moby Duck. All right, next we will do "Hoist Up the Thing," which is another very silly song. Nice after a sad ending to reading. Because did you hear, Loving, the sad ending to the reading? See, she doesn't care about what I'm doing over here. Not even paying attention to me. I'm just kidding. No, Arutha died. Yes, an assassin killed him. Caught him in the chest, and then Martin, who is his brother, just found out. So we just saw the message come into Crydy from Rillanon that Arutha had died. Yes, it was emotional. I cried, we all cried. Milu says hello. Okay, this song is also by the Longest Johns. Both of these songs are by the Longest Johns. We might be it might be all Longest Johns tonight, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. This song is called Hoist Up the Thing, and it's about a captain who is unqualified, which we've all had a boss who is unqualified, wouldn't we? Fresh out of college with grades straight from hell, I browsed for a trade which I could excel, an ad for a ship in need of some manning, men sails in purpose but lacking a captain. What luck, says I, to find such good fortune? A few white lights later I ran down the pier, bought me a coat and a cutlass or two. I jumped on the deck and I yelled at the crew, hoist up the thing, batten down the what's it? What's that thing spinning? Somebody should stop it. Turn hard to port. That's not port. Now I've got it. Trust me, I'm in control. I can sing the shanties, it has to be said, and all of that grog just goes right to my head. Whale meat is gross and I miss a girl's laugh. 5 weeks at sea and even Dave seems a catch. Hoist up the thing, batten down the what's it? What's that thing spinning? Somebody should stop it. Turn hard to port. That's not port. Now I've got it. Trust me, I'm in control. We've hit icy waters, no land to be seen. The food's getting low and the beer has gone green. There's murmurs of discontent under the deck. If I don't act fast, it could be my neck. So I'll pull up the charts and those weird gold machines. I see what it says, but I've no clue what it means. There's just pull on some levers and yank on some chains and feign a bad back till we've landed again. Hoist up the thing, batten down the what's it? What's that thing spinning? Somebody should stop it. Turn hard to port. That's not port. Now I've got it. Trust me, I'm in control. Hoist up the thing, batten up the what's it? What's that thing spinning? Somebody should stop it. Turn hard to port. Is this prison? Now I've got it. Trust me, I'm in control. Trust me, I'm in control. You guys have a great night. Isabella, it was wonderful to host you in the tavern tonight. We hope that we shall see you again. Again, we do story time with me on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and my lovely wife Una does story time on Sundays. So it will be absolutely lovely if you do come back. If you don't, it was lovely to have you for the time that we did. No pressure. I had a boss that I nicknamed Theory because theory rarely works, but if it did, it would be cold fact. Brilliant, Bear. Brilliant. Alright, last song on the docket. We are going to do A Health to the Company. Yep, all 3 songs tonight we're doing by the Longest Johns. Always a pleasure, Bear. Always a pleasure. Alright. Final song for the night. If you are joining us over on Twitch, we will of course raid out to share the love. But for everywhere else, this will be our final song, and then I will send you off out into the world. The tavern's doors will close, but don't worry, they'll open again. All right, let us go. Kind friends and companions, come join me in rhyme. Come lift up your voices in chorus with mine. Come lift up your voices, all grief to refrain. For we may or may never all meet here again. Here's a health to the company, and one to my lass. Let us drink and be merry, all out of one glass. Let us drink and be merry, all grief to refrain. For we may or may never all meet here again. Here's a health to the dear lass that I love so well, for her style and her beauty sure none can excel. There's a smile on her countenance as she sits on my knee. There's no man in this wide world as happy as me. Here's a health to the company, and one to my lass. Let us drink and be merry, all out of one glass. Let us drink and be merry, all grief to refrain. For we may or may never all meet here again. Our ship lies at anchor, she's ready to dock. I wish her safe landing without any shock. If ever I should meet you by land or by sea, I will always remember your kindness to me. Here's a health to the company, and one to my lass. Let us drink and be merry, all out of one glass. Let us drink and be merry, all grief to refrain. For we may or may never all meet here again. Here's a health to the company, and one to my lass. Let us drink and be merry, all out of one glass. Let us drink and be merry, all grief to refrain. For we may or may never all meet here again. For we may or may never all meet here again. And now, friends, we drink it down to there. Sláinte. Good night to everyone who's off for the evening. We will be back again on Thursday, and of course there will be a great many other stories that you will find here in the tavern in the meantime. And while it is sad that the doors must close for now, they will open again when next you seek a story. So until then, my friends, I will bid you all stay bloodthirsty, and we will see you next time. Have a good night, friends. Stay safe, travelers. We'll see you then.